storyteller, and an excellent Toastmaster. I now bring to the virtual lectern Toastmaster President Alwyn St. Omer. Can I have a round of applause for him, please?
Thank you, Roger, Toastmaster Roger. Good evening, Toastmasters, and welcome guests. Welcome Division 8, District 81, and Division C, family and friends. Stories are our primary tools of learning and teaching, the repositories of our lore and legends. They bring order into our confusing world. Think about how many times a day you use stories to pass along data, insights, memories, or common sense advice. A quote from orphan illustrator Edward Miller. This evening, District 81 and Division C, in association with the Platinum Artistic Toastmasters Club, proudly presents Toastober 99th Anniversary, a storytelling event to be remembered. We celebrate this evening in recognition of Toastmasters International's anniversary coming up on Sunday, 22nd October 2023. Congratulations and welcome everyone as we continue the Toastmasters legacy through storytelling. Let's be prepared to forge ahead together for the success of us all. Please help me in welcoming to the virtual lectern our host, DTM Joni Laidlaw. DTM Joni has been a Toastmaster since 2019. Her love for Toastmasters and a member focus orientation of the organization has made her a committed member. She completed her DTM in less than 2.5 years and is well on her way to completing her second. She has started 9 of the 11 paths and has gained proficiency in 6 to date, and hope to complete all 11 paths within the next 2 years. She has served in many club roles, her favorite being VPM and SAA, area director, club mentor, club coach, and now division director. She looks forward to assisting the members of the Platinum Artistic Toastmasters Club to achieve their personal goals, as well as the members of District 81 and Division C. Joni has a very big heart. Please help me in welcoming to the virtual lectern distinguished Toastmaster, Joni Laidlaw.
Thank you, Area Director, Club President, Toastmaster Alwyn St. Omer. I will be introducing him later in the meeting, so don't worry, I'll save gassing him up before when I do. Welcome everyone to District 81 Division C in association with Platinum Artistic Toastmasters Club, Toastober 99th Anniversary, a storytelling event to be remembered. But let's take a walk down memory lane. Madam Zoom Master, can you cue the video?
What is the story behind Toastmasters? No man knows it better than its founder, Dr. Ralph C. Smedley. Dr. Smedley.
Toastmasters grew out of an effort to meet the needs of a group of men in Bloomington, Illinois, more than half a century ago. In those days, I was a YMCA secretary. Many of the men with whom I was associated in that work needed help in talking and in meeting other people. They had ideas, but they did not know how to express them. However, they did not want a formal class in public speaking, and when I suggested a club in which they could learn to talk by talking, they welcomed the idea. I believed in the sound pedagogical principles of learning by doing and improving through helpful suggestions or constructive criticism, as I preferred to call it. Businessmen, professional men, laboring men, men of a variety of occupations came into the club, and they were surprised by the results which they achieved through following our simple process of practice and criticism. We were strictly an educational group. We avoided the atmosphere of the classroom, and we learned in moments of enjoyment. As men in other communities heard of our plan, they desired the same training for themselves. It is gratifying, as I look back over our development through the years, to know that the growth has been the result of the desire of men to improve themselves in speech and in communication with other people. Yes, many thousands of men throughout the free world have profited by Toastmasters training and have been led into more productive living, more satisfactory living by this means. I hope to see many thousands more given the advantage of this training in the years to come.
And that is the best possible affirmation and memory we could have as it relates to why it's so amazing to be a Toastmaster. But as a female Toastmaster, let me just say that the first female to infiltrate, and I do mean infiltrate, the Toastmasters experience wasn't who it was directed for. I learned recently that there is actually a Toast Mistress organization. However, due to the desire of one Toastmaster who eventually became president, we now have Toastmasters for all on an equal level. If ever there was an affirmation for our Toastmasters experience, I do believe that that would be it. For today, it's always important to remember the power that words carry. The spoken word as it relates to communication. William Shakespeare said, "All the world's a stage, and we are the mere players thereon." Based on that, every time we go to speak, we go to communicate. Most of the time, we're weaving a tale and crafting a story, sometimes a tall tale, sometimes the facts of what happened, but always we are on stage and presenting. To evaluate whenever we go forward to offer in the magic of storytelling, Toastmasters has a project for that. Now, to explain about the Connect with Storytelling project, I will be asking one of our evaluators, distinguished Toastmaster Shanari Bullock, best known for club building. However, I do know that when it comes to evaluation, he is an excellent trainer. And as such, I do believe will be great to explain the overall benefits of Connect with Storytelling as a project. Distinguished Toastmaster Bullock.
Thank you, Toastmaster Laidlaw. Our speakers today are all doing the Connect with Storytelling project. They have spent some time learning different skills that they can apply to tell stories effectively, and they're going to be demonstrating those skills for us today. They're going to focus on stories in a speech or creating a speech that is a story. The story may be any type. It could be personal, well-known fiction, or something that they have created totally on their own. As evaluators, we'll be listening for well-organized speech that is a story or includes a story, and we'll be looking out for the specific skills that they should have developed while working on their storytelling project. They have 5 to 7 minutes to complete this project. Toastmaster Laidlaw.
Thank you so much for the breakdown of what our speakers who will be doing Connect with Storytelling will have for us to offer today. Now, we also have a speaker doing Writing a Speech with a Purpose. See, not all stories fall under Connecting with Storytelling, and there are actually other alternatives that you can utilize your storytelling prowess to connect with your audience. Well, for this, we will have Toastmaster Lori Hippolyte. Lori, I hope I got it right this time, who will be introducing us to what the objectives are for the project Writing a Speech with a Purpose.
Madam Toastmaster of the meeting. Distinguished Toastmaster Elka will be writing a speech with a purpose. For this, she would basically tell us the basic structure of, or review the basic structure of writing a speech. Then she's going to deliver a well-written speech to us. Since this is a storytelling event, I'm expecting to hear a story within her speech. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Lori. It means that storytelling can be utilized not just specifically for a speech that we're doing a story, but in all aspects of our Toastmasters experience. For our Art Talk segment today, we have a special guest. Now, unfortunately, he wouldn't be here in person, or we would have already heard me say, "Bonjour, Alexandre, ça va?" Please don't answer me in French because I won't understand you. However, he has sent us his Art Talk, which will be played shortly. Now, he was the second place winner in the 2022 World Championship of Public Speaking. He is an expert as it relates to storytelling, but not only is he an expert as it relates to storytelling and the use of it in great conversations, for those of us who don't know the abbreviation. He also is quite good at providing tips and forethought. For 2022, he performed, or he actually gave his presentation, get this, online. He wasn't even there in person. Now, to put it over the top, not only did he compete as a virtual contestant and come all of second in a world of in place, but his speech on the love of a specific type of food was brought to another level because he even had a taste or a bite delivered to everyone in the audience. Now, if that isn't visionary, I don't know what is. But here to explain to us and give us a few tips about storytelling, distinguished Toastmaster Alexandre Matte.
Hello, bonjour. It's a pleasure to do this for you. I apologize, I cannot be there live. I will be doing something else while you are meeting right now. But I thought it was important to participate in your special storytelling event. As it turns out, right now I am at a storytelling festival, le Festival Les Vieux m'ont compté. Joni, thank you so much for inviting me. You know, my friends, when Joni and I think our first conversation we had was online, because I had written that I was in Kingston, and Joni said, "Oh wow, I'm in Kingston too. Where are you? Maybe we can meet." And it took a minute or two before we realized it's not the same Kingston. I was in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. She's in Kingston, Jamaica. Not an easy commute for an afternoon. So maybe another day, Joni, maybe. But here I am in Sudbury in Northern Ontario for a storytelling festival. I'm hearing so many great stories. And one thing that is always the same in stories is one particular thing that happens during a story. So if you wish to have a great story, I'll just give you one really important element. Usually I can talk about 40 minutes, 1 hour, even more. I can do a full workshop for you if you want, another day, okay? Maybe in Kingston. But for now, I'll just give you one main element. And I'll start by showing you the model that I use, or that inspired me for creating my stories last year on my way to the World Championship of Public Speaking. It's called the Hero's Journey. Now, you might have heard about this before, and now I realize that, okay, my face is blocking some of the notes, but it doesn't matter. I won't even read all this. My point is, Joseph Campbell, in his book from the 1940s, he studied myths, legends, great stories, and noted that in all these great stories, there are common elements. The hero's journey, 12 steps. I encourage you to read and research about the hero's journey. If you want, reach out to me and I'll give you some sources, some things that you can read. But right now, I'm just going to show you how I adapted this hero's journey, the 12 steps from Joseph Campbell and Christopher Vogler, who, by the way, was, I suppose, it's a long time ago, was a screenwriter for Disney. And he took the book and the works of Joseph Campbell, that's about 500 pages, and condensed it into 5 pages, and only 5 pages, for people who work at Disney in writing movies. So that's why after a while studying movies, especially Disney movies, you realize, wait a minute, I can see all these steps right there, yeah. But it works because these steps of the hero's journey, there's a call to adventure, you refuse the call, you meet the mentor, etc., etc. There's a big adventure. These steps make for a great story because you can have a roller coaster of emotions. And it's when you tap into the emotions of your audience that then you're able to move them to action. If you have a message to transmit, the best way for you to do it is through those emotions told through a story. But if you have only 7 minutes to tell your story and to share your message, how are you going to do it? Well, let me show you how I do it. I take these 12 steps and I take only the 6 most essential ones. If you want to take a screen capture, you can, or I'll let you know how you can download a PDF of this later on. But because I'm going to zoom in to just one of these elements. Let's go really fast into all these 6 elements, and then we'll zoom in, okay? So if you start with the beginning of your story, you see the characters in their ordinary life or their everyday life. Then there's a call to adventure. That's why everything starts happening. The adventures and difficulties is the next step. So that's where you would have your main character go through the ordeals, go through the adventures. Oftentimes meeting some allies, sometimes some people who are not allies, some enemies perhaps. Now, this might ring a bell if you study some great novels or movies. There are all these adventures, right? Like superhero movies. It's an adventure. But an adventure that you are going to share, if you're sharing a personal story, it does not need to be, you don't need to be going on Mount Everest or slaying dragons or saving the world from destruction. Sometimes it's just as simple as making your family's special recipe. That was my final speech for last year. I'll show you an example in a minute. For the adventure, there's the great challenge. So I just realized I haven't been showing you my slide. There it is. Everyday life, call to adventure, adventure and difficulties, and the great challenge up on the top. The hero faces the greatest challenge yet and surmounts seemingly impossible odds. And through that adventure, the hero, the main character, you perhaps, the hero is transformed. And this is the step that we're going to zoom in. The hero experiences the benefits of going through the great challenge. If you have a message to give to your audience, the best way for them to really adopt what you're saying is to let them know how you experience that message. And that's from the transformation. So that's why my last step here is sharing the wisdom. In Toastmasters contest, you'll have that most of the time. You hear all the story, and then at the very end or close to the end, you realize, okay, this is the message that I'm receiving. Yes. So that's when we share the wisdom. So let's zoom into the transformation. The hero experiences the benefits of going through the great challenge. In other words, it's an aha moment. Oh, right, now I understand. I've been doing the things wrong. Now I see what I've been doing wrong, and I can change my ways. And by changing my ways, this is how my life went better at the end. Okay? When you analyze, this is an experience that you can try, an exercise. Go through the World Championship finals or semifinals, so really great speeches, and try to identify the moment of transformation. Most, if not all, of these speeches, it's a first-person retelling of a story. So there's always that moment where I see that's when the person, the speaker, the main character, has transformed. So I understand, and this is what I want to do as well. Okay. Let me show you how I take these steps and I insert them into, or I use them to create my speech. Again, if you want, you can take a quick screen capture. I could move my face here, there. Now, I invite you to take a picture of this if you want, and then later on, watch my final speech from last year and compare it with what you see here, because then you can see how I used all the 6 steps in order to have that up and down of emotions. And if we zoom in just to the transformation, what are the benefits of going through the great challenge? You can see that this is, in the last column, it's 10 sentences, my whole speech in 10 sentences. 10, that's not easy, 10 sentences. The transformation moment is when the family remains intact because of our yearly tradition. So what I like to do now, if the sound works, I think it will work, we will play just that moment of transformation and see what happens at that moment, how I say it. Okay, so at this point in the story, I'm worried that my family will crumble because my grandmother, the matriarch, the glue of the family, the main ingredient, has passed away. But this is the moment when I realize that maybe we can keep our family intact with something special. Created, and it is those traditions that have held those people together for thousands of years. Because, by the way, I've compared it with Fiddler on the Roof. The Jewish people's traditions have held them together for thousands of years. Will my family crumble? No. Because I know my cousins will be there to hold the torch. Each one of them adding a special ingredient to our family's traditions. One of them is hosting us. One of them is bringing a karaoke machine. And I have the no-bake cake. Together, we are holding together the family. And that is the moment of transformation, when there's this true realization that it's because of the traditions that we can stay together. And by doing that, by showing that moment of transformation, that is when, of course, I can then share the wisdom, as I mentioned before. Okay, My friends, now I invite you to create your own story outline, following the example that I've given before with just the 6 steps. When I've given this workshop, and I do it in a longer time period, the people who participate always tell me, this is great. I've been struggling to tell this particular story from my life, but I don't know how and where to start. When you break it down into these pieces, it's almost like magic. And then after that, you can play around with the timeline, with the characters and other details. But if you use this, the hero's journey, as a blueprint, then you may well have your best speech ever. Don't hesitate to contact me if you're competing in next year's or in this year's speech contest and you would like some help. The best way to contact me is through my website. Just go to alexandrematte.com and there's a contact form. You can contact me and it'll be a pleasure for me to answer any question that you may have. I'm sorry that I cannot stay for questions because I'm not actually here and I'm going later on for another event right now. As you can see, I'm backstage right now in the green room, just an hour before I go on the big stage over there. So I'm gonna have a lot of fun in this storytelling festival, and I hope that you will have a lot of fun also with your event. Toastober, I should have written this down. A Toastober event, storyteller. I know it's about storytelling and that it's a Toastmaster event for the month of Toastmasters, October. Toastober, October storytelling event to remember. There you go. I will hand it back to you right now. Bye-bye. Enjoy it.
Round of applause for our hero's journey and some tips that can be used when crafting your own story. Now, what do I like? It's okay to be imperfectly imperfect and show up in a way that you can, even if it's just a pre-recorded video, because I can guarantee, and this is going to be an unmute and speak, that we all learned quite a few tips, even though he was not actually able to be here in person. So I'm unmuting and I'm waiting on everybody to applaud and say, yes, they learned something.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, we all did.
We
Yes, yes.
We, right, yes,
Some wisdom.
we, oh, sweet, yes, we, beautiful. And for those of us who are like me, who may not get it the first time, shameless plug. Platinum Artistic will be having this video uploaded with not just the tips that we just received, but with all of our speeches that we will be having today. And for all our speakers, we will get the opportunity to relive the greatness of Toastober 99th anniversary, a storytelling event to be remembered. It's that time. I know that Toastmaster Patrick is quite nervous for him stepping forward to take on the role that he is about to play. Now, I know that it's not the first time, as he did perform along with the Hibiscus Cultural Group, and he did a small role in this enactment. But today, for us here, he will be giving us a speech, and not only giving us a speech, but being our very first speaker. Toastmaster Patrick Chester doing his connecting with storytelling speech, Tales of Old. Tales of Old, Patrick Chester. The virtual space is yours. We're not hearing you, Patrick.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Be good. Be good. Tales of old. It was around 1966 in Guyana, in a town called Stanley Town. There were always rumors of an old hag living in the town. Now, an old hag is a sort of vampire who would be seen gliding along the roads at night in a fiery glow. And they would emit fire from their behinds and their armpits. Also, he or she would walk with their heads on the ground and their feet in the air. Scary. There was a team of people in town who hunted the hags. To catch them, it was mostly during the full moon season the old hags would come out to find and suck newborn babies. Wow. Now, old lady Stella lived in an old green heart unpainted little cottage. She was about 80 years old, or no one knew for sure how old she was. She had blood red eyes, and she was black and wrinkled, and not no ordinary black. It was a rusty, dirty black. But she would wear an old, worn out looking clothes right up to her ankles and trying to look very decent. On this full moon night, old lady Stella begins her ritual. Old woman with the wrinkled skin, let the old hag walk begin. Put on your fiery disguise. Old woman with weary eyes, shed your swizzly skin. Ball of fire, rise up high, rise up till you touch the sky. Land on top somebody roof, chops them in through the keyhole. Poof! Up your old eye guy. Find the baby, where he lie. Change back fast. Turn the eye. Find the baby. Lift the sheet. Make your puncture with your teeth. Suck the baby dry. Change back fast and out you fly. Find the gooby with your skin. Make your semi-dodge, then in. Give your old high grin. Next day, in your dirty powder gown, school children flock you around. All hike, they're hollering out. But mind your mouth. Don't let them find you out. They're gonna mark you with chalk everywhere you got to walk. Your bridge, your door, your jalousie. But cross the mark and let it see. Else, they're gonna spread the talk. Next night, you're going out just the same. Wrap up in your ball of flame to find and suck another child. But take care, rumors spreading wild, and people know your name. Fly across the windowsill. Why this baby lying so still? Lift the sheet like how you does do. Oh God! The baby night gone blue. Run for the windowsill. Woman, you're gonna run or not? Don't mind the rice by the cut. Like the smell of asafoetida, like a tech effect upon you. But it's too late for that. Because you done start to count the rice. And if you only drop 1 grain of rice, you're gonna have to start all over again. What tell you? They don't light and rice still mounting till they wake and catch you counting. and they pick up the big fat cabbage broom and beating you all across the room. It's now you should start calling you Watson, Watson, blind, blind. Beat you all across the head till she, oh God, beat you, Watson, Watson, blind. You stuck my baby till I'm dead. Look, you bitty bitch, Watson, Watson, blind. Oh God, oh God. Done now, no. Are you done? You broke my hip. Done we said that you witch. Done look. Are you bitty bitch? Watson, Watson, blind, blind. I think bitty witch did she that? Watson, Watson, blind, blind. Die you with, die. And that was a poem by Wordsworth Andrew and adapted by Patrick Chester.
I really wanted to jump in and replay the what, but you know what? I will not have that in. So I will just recall the memories of that poem as my response here today. Everyone, round of applause. And for those who can't applaud and you're not on screen, remember, that's why we have emojis. We can't always be on camera, but we have our emojis. And the beauty of emojis is we can express to our speaker how they're making us feel. I mean, after all, they do actually want to know, even if we can't actually physically say it, that I applaud that. Or when the waxing starts, there may be a bit of laughter or possibly question sign. How does that work? How do we get that to occur? It's always important to remember that is also a viable emoji, and it helps with feedback, especially with storytelling. I mean, after all, sometimes what you think you're communicating, you're not always communicating. But for today, we are going to be moving on to our next speaker. Now, for our next speaker, she is actually a member of the BOJ Power Speakers. She's actually currently the president. But not only does she work at the Bank of Jamaica and is a president of the BOJ Power Speakers, as if that was not enough work, she found the time to get this, write a book and launch it, all while being an amazing lady. Next to the virtual lectern is Toastmaster Caprice Clark. How God brought me out alive. How God brought me out alive. Toastmaster Caprice Clark.
Right here. Once upon a time, there was this little girl who had big dreams. She always wanted to be a teacher until she heard that teaching did not pay. So she bumped it up a bit and wanted to become a lecturer instead. But was that even possible? As this young girl grew up in poverty, the house that she lived in was dilapidated. First, her grandmother lived in it, and then she gave it to her son, and then after her son, she gave it to her father. No, with that dilapidated house, they had it hard financially. And when I mean hard, I mean hard. There were times when they struggled to even find food, yet alone lunch money. This girl, there were days when she had to go to school, guess what? Without lunch money. Nonetheless, her father made sure that he brought her whether the lunch money or the lunch. Now, despite her financial lack, despite her setbacks, she still had her dream. And her father supported her dream throughout all the time. No, in addition to that, she struggled and struggled and struggled, and somehow she wanted to further this dream. But matriculating into university seemed impossible, like it was out of this world. Let me tell you how she even managed upper six. It became so hard that she had to repeat her her socks until they became yellow, and her white blouses, they lost their color and they looked more like the sun. However, she did not let that deter her. Her dream was what led her and pushed her to continue to fight on. And fight on she did. She, with the help of the Lord, matriculated into, guess what? The University of the West Indies. It was hard, but with the help of God and her father, she made it through. The first year was hard. There were days she could not even afford lunch. Do you know what she had to eat on a particular day? A sweetie. Just a sweetie. But she did not lose hope because she had a dream in mind. And after that year, things started to open up for her. She got a scholarship, the principal scholarship for excellence. And with that scholarship, she was able to live on campus. She was able to have extra money, which covered miscellaneous items. And she also found not one, but 2 jobs while living on campus. Let me just draw back for instance. During upper six, while living in yet another dilapidated house, the person who rented her and her family that house got shot right outside. And she and her mother thought that they would kill them. But thanks be to God, the Lord spared her life, and now she has accomplished one of her dreams as being an economist, and the other she's working on it. Now, having heard that, you would think she would give up. She would let go. She would call it quits. But be like that young little girl who believed in herself and allowed her dream to carry her through. That is how I overcame my obstacles, and that is how God brought me out alive. I was that young little girl, and I can tell you, whatever obstacle, whatever challenge, whatever trial seemed to be blocking you, you have what it takes to overcome. Believe in yourself and follow your dreams. Over to you, Toastmaster of the day.
I'm not crying. You're crying. Somebody's cutting onions in here. It's not the point of connecting to have someone empathize, emulate, and feel your story so deeply that it brings tears. to their eyes. Now, if we were in person, I would hand Caprice the mint ball because, yes, I upper and condition people by giving them sweets whenever I think they do an awesome job. And now I know it will work in two ways because it will be a great memory and also go to prove that no matter the circumstances, we can overcome no matter what's there if we have someone who believes in us and has our back. And I always love hearing great dad stories. Just to note, I do need to follow up with Toastmaster Caprice if her dad did win the competition for best dad. I voted, and I shared it, just to say. Next on the agenda, we'll be having an interesting speech by Toastmaster Jacqueline English. Now, remember, by name, not by nature is usually how she tends to explain, because she came to Toastmasters in hope of evolving her vocabulary so that she could connect more effectively in that manner. And as such, the fact that she will now be giving us a play on words as it relates to how she shares her connection with us in storytelling, I look forward to finding out what the heck, Distinguished Toastmaster Jacqueline English Jacobs.
It's smooth sailing. So we have docked at the following exotic Caribbean destinations.
What the heck? It was smooth sailing. I experienced a storm. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, the grand day had arrived in May 2023 when I must step out of my comfort zone for the filming of my video to host District 81's Night TV. Later, I hoisted the anchor, but it was not a smooth sailing of lights, camera, action. Let's dive in to my storybook as, or should I say, what the heck? Because on that day at 7 a.m., my WhatsApp was. Have you ever experienced a hacking incident? Indeed. What the heck? I awoke cited significantly to ensure smooth sailing while still in bed. I was putting in some practicing when I got the stormy WhatsApp call from a phone, which ended with the immediate result of my WhatsApp being hacked. I frantically thought, today of all days, I could not access my WhatsApp. More so, I had never heard of WhatsApp being hacked. Thus, at that moment, I was not even conscious what was occurring. Then, what the heck? My cell phone started ringing non-stop with calls from my friends and family to inform me that as of 7:05 that morning, they received WhatsApp messages from me requesting US $1,000 via PayPal. Hence, My emotions were on a roller coaster turmoil from sight to this trauma was not happening to me, especially on the day of my shoot. Therefore, I tried not to go into panic mode as I faced my storm. Being a seasoned sailor, I never got seasick, but this storm made me nauseous as reality struck that a hacker had access to all my personal messages and photos of my family. Then my mind started to work overtime since WhatsApp was also installed on my laptop. So there's a possibility that my laptop might be compromised. There was so much to do. Plus, I did not have a clue how to handle this hacking crisis. Furthermore, everyone I turned to did not know how to fix it. Subsequently, time was running out on me. I could not focus because persons were continuously calling me about my financial request. But what the heck? Accordingly, I was way behind schedule with my appointments for the video shoot. Two decisions to make with too little time to make them. What the heck? Should I postpone the film shoot? What the heck? Should I go to CID now to report the hacking incident? What the heck? Should I go to my phone service provider now for advice? So, what the heck? I decided to do none of the above, but to trust that it would be smooth sailing for lights, camera, action, which was portrayed in the video you saw. However, whilst I prepared myself for the setup of the video shoot, I experienced an ironic moment that I always preferred to be behind the scenes. But what the heck? If anyone got a peek of the storm behind this scene, it was surely not smooth sailing. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, on that day, I battled my storm like a true sailor. Consequently, I identified with John Maxwell's quote that the pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The leader adjusts the sails. Madam Chair.
Here I was thinking that it was the realist that adjusted the sail, but I can still say, what the heck? Everyone, a round of applause for Toastmaster Jackie with her play on words and an rather heart-wrenching experience to have to live through. Next on our agenda, have you been to England? Not only have you been to England, have you been to England? to demonstrate your prowess as an aficionado in your amazement as an artist. For all of us who are members of Platinum Artistic and probably members of his area, as he is an area director here in Division C, Toastmaster Alwyn St. Omer will always state, and I quote, Alwyn, let's see if I get your voice right this time. Before, I was a reluctant Toastmaster, but if it was not for Toastmasters, I would not be able to have accomplished all that I have accomplished. As stated, coming to the virtual space to connect us today with storytelling, I'm wondering if it's about the amazing time he just had while exhibiting his art in England. Let's see if that's how he will choose to connect with storytelling. Toastmaster Alwyn St. Omer, an outstanding collection. An outstanding collection, Toastmaster Alwyn St. Omer.
What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything? What would life be? What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything? A quote by master artist and post-impressionist painter Vincent van Gogh. I personally believe that every day we have to challenge ourselves to do something different, something new, or else we slowly die inside. Recently, I fulfilled, along with my partner, Toastmaster Marcel St. Omer, and my son, Sergio St. Omer, we traveled to the UK to fulfill a life journey, something that seemed impossible. It was a life journey because I've been painting the Moon Dancer for over 25 years. I wanted this international exhibition in the UK. It was going to be a world premiere of the Moon Dancer in the UK. And it was a fabulous success. But where did it all begin? I remember as a child, seeing my dad painting, putting out his acrylic and oil paints, and that ate something in me. The colors did something in me. And even then, further, when he, along with his friends, Sir Derek Walcott and them, had these plays in the town hall, I would go and see these St. Lucian plays and Caribbean plays. And the music, the drama, the action infused something in me, and I wanted to record it in painting. But there was something else. There was the masquerade at Christmas. Every Christmas, these masqueraders would come out. And I was mesmerized by the colors, and sometimes they were so fearsome that I would hide inside with my kids, with my siblings. But as I grew up, I wanted to, they disappeared somewhere in the mid-70s. It was a street theater, the masquerade, and they disappeared somehow. And I wanted to find a solution to what happened to these really colorful and colorful characters. So I started a series to save the masquerade in paintings. At first, I painted the masquerade as I remembered, with the horns and the bushy banana leaves as they came out, Papa Jab and Cap Wheats and all the followers. But then the buyers were not interested in putting the devil in the home. It was too scary. But one day, while painting, by accident or by divine intervention, the moon dancer appeared. It was, as you see in the background, a dancer in a rhythmic abstraction dancing under the moon. This became an instant success, of course, but this was not enough. I wanted to find out more because it had a lot to do with our African roots. Where did this come from? And in doing more research, my friend Alwyn Bully advised me that the masquerade really began in the plantation system. The slaves, whenever they were permitted any form of gaiety from the pain of the plantation system, they would revert to the mass traditions of West Africa. Although it no longer meant the birth, wedding tradition, or harvest tradition, they would put on the mask as a silent link to the motherland, a silent rebellion against those who fought to be the masters. The masters fought happy slaves, was a good slave, so they didn't care. But the slaves used it as a symbol of redemption. And that symbol, as in my painting, the masquerade continued for the ages into our modern festivals and Christmas traditions. I've now taken this fantastic Moon Dancer series to the UK to great success. And you know what was really interesting? When I explained the Moon Dancer series to some of the many African friends from, like the ambassador of Ghana was at the exhibition, of Nigeria, they were amazed that, yes, I was somebody I was one of the people who came. I'm one of the African brothers who left the motherland. But there was this link between us, and there was something magical when the Moon Dancer was displayed and explained to the African diaspora, to the West Indian diaspora, and to the world. A world premiere and my outstanding collection, the Moon Dancer series in the United Kingdom in 2023. An outstanding collection. Toastmasters and guests.
Great. All right. So Toastmaster Jean took the word out of my mouth. Yeah, she could tell that I froze because the only thing I had to say as it relates to Toastmaster Alwyn's speech was only someone who likes Halloween would want the devil in their house. It's one of my favorite holidays. Maybe we can try a rebranding of those older versions. And just to state, one of the fun things I found about being a Toastmaster, by the way, in 149 countries, but let's just keep it right here in the Caribbean, in our division. You say it was Toastmaster Alwyn. This is where you're going to help me out. What's the name of yours? See, we have Jankuno. You have?
We have we call it the masquerade, the toes, the paibanan in St. Lucia. Yeah.
So we can share our stories based on our own cultural experiences, but you say masquerade, me say Jankuno. And I also learned from being associated with other Toastmasters that across our Caribbean territory, we all share a rendition of the same experience, no matter what island we happen to find ourselves on. Even in Bermuda, I do believe they have an entire festival specifically just for what we call the devil in ours. I do believe it has the same name in St. Lucia. By the way, ours meaning Jamaica, repping on Heroes Day for our country. We all share the same experience, and that's how we get to connect with storytelling, because you may call it tomato, I may call it tomato, but we do find ways that we can see how we connect with each other. Connecting next is the reason Toastmaster Alwyn was a reluctant Toastmaster, but ended up here. The founding president of the Platinum Artistic Toastmasters Club, the other half of the duo behind our club, and also she is an area director with her accolades in her own right. Now, a member of a number of clubs, as well as the current vice president education here for the Platinum Artistic Toastmasters Club. And if you ask Toastmaster Alwyn, the reason that he gets what he gets done, and you don't have to take my word for it, when we repost this video online, he said it. If you were active listening, which by the way, evaluation in Toastmasters done, you would have, like me, heard him make reference to our next speaker, Toastmaster Marcella St. Omer. Inspiration by name and by nature. Inspiration, Toastmaster Marcella St. Omer.
Dream It, Then Make It Happen by Jen Carrington. Having a hobby or passion makes you an overall more attractive person. This quote has definitely built or resonated with me and has actually built my confidence. This quote has made me realize that it's normal to be passionate about something. As a child, while growing up, I was very much interested in arts and crafts, which also came down through my families who were from a very quaint community called Monrepo down in the south of St. Lucia. Most children at that time would be crocheting or weaving or doing something of that nature. At the age of 8, I began to crochet. I built this passion and dreamed of one day to become a fashion designer. But fate would have it. And as time went along, I went into the administration field and also had to raise a family. So I had to let this rest for a while. As my children grew up, much later, I decided to take on my passion again and began to crochet. Now, everyone knows that I love flowers. Even my brother would remind me that when I was very young, I went on this tour where they told us all about flowers, and I came back home and I named every flower to him. Even up to this day, he remembers the names of the flowers and says, Marcella, you taught me the names of those flowers. In 2014, with my love and passion for flowers as well, I joined the St. Lucia Floral Cooperative Society. There, they taught us how to attend symposiums and learn all this, everything about agriculture and so on, for that would have us grow our flowers and see them bloom as much and to be happy with our gardens. In 2014, I also attended this Love Elevated Symposium through the Cooperative Society. It was named the St. Lucia Love Elevated Symposium, which the St. Lucia Tourist Board was having at the time. The Cooperative Society had their booth with the accents of flowers and everything around them. But later that day, we were offered, whether we'd like to attend a fashion show or anything else that they were offering, dances, games, and so on. But I decided to attend the fashion show. There were all this fashion with lots of ladies, young people dressed in their wedding gowns and the men in their wedding suits. And while sitting there and watching this, amazing show, I got this inspiration that, I should actually crochet a wedding dress for the next year for the Love Elevated Symposium. I spoke to my friends about it, my family, and they said, Marcella, why not? We believe in you and we believe you can do it. Go for it. I got really excited. I began to buy my thread, my needles, and thinking about it, the design right there in my head, not drawing anything, but there was a design right up there in my head. And in 2015, I began to crochet. But there was always something, bothering me. How would I get down to the length of this dress? And so I came up with an idea that every day I would crochet 5 rows of the wedding dress. And I began to do this. In the morning, I may crochet 2 rows, lunchtime, 1 row, and in the evening, 5 rows. And I went like this, crocheting, very busy. When it came towards the end of me completing the dress, I actually called the managing director or the projects manager at the St. Lucia Tourist Board and told her about this brilliant idea that I thought I had. She asked me to come in, we had a meeting, and they were lovely. They loved the dress, they loved the idea. They said they would take it to the other team members and get back to me. And so they did. And just imagine Toastmasters and guests. They loved the design and had me to actually open the show the following year. My model was the first one on the runway strutting with my dress. I can't explain the feeling that I had when I saw this model with my design on the runway. I can't find words to express those feelings. It was awesome. It was wonderful. It was brilliant. It was a dream come true. Toastmasters and guests. There were international reporters, regional and local reporters who did interviews. That was fantastic for me. My dream had come true. And I encourage you, Toastmasters, that if you have a dream, no matter how long it takes, it can be for years and years that you've been thinking of this dream that you'd like to get something off the ground, go for it. Because this is what I did. And this is what I actually came out with when my model strutted the runway with this design that I'm so happy with. And after this, everything came through for me. I began to get commissions. My business, House of St. Omer, flourished. I was really happy to do all of this type of crochet that I had a dream as a child. This was awesome. Toastmaster.
It is quite amazing what we can do while inspired. Now, this is the point where we get to stop and show Toastmaster Marcella that we are all in awe of what she created. So for those of us who cannot come on video, we are going to make sure that we hit the emoji to demonstrate how lovely and amazing we thought that was. Now, if it's one thing that I've learned from being a member of the Platinum Artistic Toastmasters Club, is that art comes in many forms, not just being able to put a paintbrush to a piece of paper to make beautiful music, but we can create art in how we sew, stitch, or craft our words to create a compelling speech. Next on our agenda is the current Division B director. Toastmaster Corinne Thomas has been a Toastmaster for, I'm not going to date her. She has, however, been an integral part of the Toastmasters movement for quite some time. Today, she will be giving her presentation entitled, Keep Your Fork in Your Hand. Keep your fork in your hand. Distinguished Toastmaster Corinne Thomas.
Toastmasters and guests. Today, I will be telling you two seemingly unrelated stories to illustrate a point I want to make. Story number one. One day, a group of old friends had lunch together. While some of them ordered salads, sandwiches, and soups, normal lunch fare, Jim, a short, balding golfer type, about 85 years old, ordered a large piece of homemade apple pie, heated, along with 2 large scoops of vanilla ice cream. Jim savored every bite of his pie a la mode. The other guys just grinned in disbelief as they silently ate their now boring lunches. A few weeks later, one of the group was again going out to lunch and invited Jim to come along. This time, Jim ordered a chocolate parfait, while his host had a white meat tuna sandwich. Finally, his host asked him why he always ordered such rich desserts instead of sensible food choices. Jim laughed and said, "I'm tasting all that it is possible for me to taste. Try to eat the food I need to and do the things I should in order to stay healthy. But life's too short, my friend. I hate missing out on something good. This year, I realized how old I am. I've never been this old before. So while I'm still here, I've decided it's time to try all those things that for years I've been ignoring." He continued, "I haven't smelled all the flowers yet. There are too many trout streams I haven't fished. There's more fudge sundaes to wolf down and kites to be flown overhead. So if I choose to have dessert instead of having dinner, then should I die before nightfall, I'd say I died a winner, because I missed out on nothing. I filled my heart's desire. I had the final piece of pie before my life expired." Story number 2. A young woman was diagnosed with a terminal illness and given just 3 months to live. As she began getting her affairs in order, she had her pastor come to her house to discuss her final wishes. She told him what song she wanted sung at her funeral, what scriptures should be read, what outfit she wanted to be buried in. As he was leaving, she told him that she had one more request. She wanted to be buried with a fork in her right hand. The pastor was, of course, confused and intrigued and asked her why. She then explained, "When I was little, my grandmother told me that in all her years of attending socials and dinners, she remembered that when the dishes of the main course were being cleared, someone would inevitably lean over and say, 'Keep your fork.' It was her favorite part of the meal because she knew something better was coming, like velvety chocolate cake or deep dish apple pie, something wonderful and with substance." The young woman explained that she had always tried to pass on this message to loved ones and those in need of encouragement. Now she wanted people to see her in the casket with a fork in her hand and wonder, what's with the fork? She told the pastor, "Then I want you to tell them, keep your fork, the best is yet to come." The pastor's eyes welled up with tears of joy, and he hugged the young woman goodbye. He knew that this would be one of the last times he would see her before her death. At the funeral, people were walking by her casket and saw the fork placed in her right hand. Over and over, the pastor heard the question, "What's with a fork?" And he just smiled. During his message, he told them about the conversation he had with her shortly before her death and what the fork symbolized to her. He told them that he could not stop thinking about the fork and that they probably would not be able to stop thinking about it either. So Toastmasters, friends, what do these seemingly unrelated stories have in common, apart from apple pie and desserts? For me, they speak about attitude and outlook. We've all heard the saying that your attitude determines your altitude. These two stories remind me that while we should make sensible choices, without hope and a positive outlook, we will find ourselves going through life sad, depressed, and lonely as we face life's challenges. Be mindful that happiness isn't based on possessions, power, or prestige, but on relationships with people we like, respect, and enjoy spending time with. Remember, as you make your life choices, that while money talks, ice cream sings. Toastmasters, keep your fork in your hand. The best is yet to come. Madam Toastmaster.
Always an interesting perspective in how we see the world, and yet another way we can utilize connecting with storytelling, visualization, and the imagery with which we speak works to assist our audience in being able to see the picture. And hopefully, like me, we all visualize that fork, maybe not everything else. Again, unless Halloween is your favorite holiday and it is that time of the year, then you were in for quite a morbid treat as it relates to the imagery that was displayed in that speech. But overall, I will wait and not comment further to allow the evaluator to speak on that speech. Next to the virtual space, we have the current club growth director for, get this, not the division, but the entire District 81. We've moved into the segment where we have the leadership of the District 81 team stepping us to show us how it's done. Club Growth Director Tashi Brown is a member of the Classique Toastmasters Club, and she will actually be giving us a speech about embracing change. Embracing change. Club Growth Director Tashi Brown.
Change is inevitable. But why is it that as humans, we often find it challenging to adjust and adapt to change? In his book, Who Moved My Cheese?, Spencer Johnson shared an interesting parable on how change is seen and should be envisioned. Long ago, in a maze, there lived 4 characters, 2 little mice and 2 little people. The mice were called Sniff and Scurry, and the little people, Hem and Haw. Every day, they will leave their home in search of cheese. In the context of the book, cheese relates to, in our life, the things that makes us feel as though we would have accomplished success. Now, every morning they will wake up and they will go in search of cheese. And one day they stumbled upon Cheese Station C, a place where there was a lot of cheese, bountiful. Sniff and Scurry started to jump and flutter, nibbling here and there because of the excitement of finding this cheese. Hem and Haw, they felt secured because at last they achieved the success that they have been striving to get to. But as time went by, Sniff and Scurry recognized that the cheese was getting less and less. And so they recognized that it became important for them to start shifting how they're thinking and preparing to move on. Hem and Haw, on the other hand, they were living their best life. So they did not realize what was happening. Now the time did arrive when Sniff and Scurry came to Cheese Station C and recognized that there was no cheese. They were saddened, but they understood what they needed to do. And so they ventured out into the maze in search for new cheese. Later that day, Hem and Haw came to Cheese Station C. And just like Sniff and Scurry, they saw no cheese. No cheese? Hem shouted, "No cheese? No cheese? Who moved my cheese?" Haw was in disbelief. He was so upset. So unfair. Who moved my cheese? They were so upset. They were hemming and hawing, fretting and quarreling because this was their cheese. Who dare move their cheese? Whilst on the other hand, Sniff and Scurry were just stumbling through the maze, finding a little cheese here and a little cheese there. And then suddenly they stumbled upon Cheese Station N. Toastmasters and guests, a bountiful amount of cheese. They have never seen so much cheese in their life. Different variety, different color, different flavors. Sniff and Scurry were so excited. Whilst on the other hand, Hem and Haw were still hemming and hawing and fretting about the fact that the cheese belonged to them. They left their home every day, going to Cheese Station C, hoping that the cheese would reappear, but no cheese came again. Then one day, Haw sat down and he thought to himself, "Hem, this is ridiculous. Do you see what we are doing? We are leaving our homes every day, coming here expecting to get something different. There is no cheese here for us. It is time that we make a change." Hem was not having it. Make a change? I will get to the bottom of this. This is not fair. Who moved my cheese? But Haw recognized that sometimes in life, you have to leave others behind and you have to make a decision for yourself. And so he ventured out in search of new cheese. He was timid, he was shaking, he was scared, because the maze was so dark and he was alone. But he recognized that in order to survive and achieve his goals, he had to make that move. And as time went by, he stumbled also upon cheese station N. Wow! The amount of cheese that he saw, he was so excited and he felt sad for his friend. And he thought, should I go back and get him here? But then he pondered and recognized that in life, we need to allow people to find that change for themselves, because we cannot force them into the process, because the value that they need to receive will not be the same. But as a few days went by, he saw and heard a ruckus coming through cheese station and Hem finally decided to change and to come looking for new cheese. And he was there, and they all were there celebrating and enjoying the newfound cheese. Toastmasters and guests, sometimes we've got to recognize and know that change is inevitable. What are we doing to anticipate that change and to adjust so that we can be able to embrace that change? The change may not necessarily be a lack or a limitation in something, but it could be that the cheese is getting old and moldy and it will not taste the same anymore and it will not serve us the same value. So we have got to make a decision to prepare ourselves to embrace and to make the necessary steps to adjust this change. I love the way Sniff and Scurry were intentional about their journey. I am willing to be Sniff. DTM Johnny, will you be my Scurry?
Appreciating that a change in perspective and understanding that self-entitlement will lead you to stay put in a position that is no longer serving you. We're there. And by the way, also one of my favorite books and an example, though I personally have some apprehensions as it relates to mice. Next on our agenda, we started with the Club Growth Director. For those of us who understand how the Toastmaster hierarchy works, after we do Club Growth, somebody unmute and tell me what is the next step. Where do we go after Club Growth?
Program Quality Director.
I thought you were going to say back to your club to be a president, but that is very correct. After you do Club Growth, you move on to be the Program Quality Director, Gold Star. I do believe that was R.A. Shirley. There you go. If we were in person, I would throw you a mint ball. That was a mint ball moment right there. Next is our Program Quality Director. Now, for everybody else, they were connecting with storytelling, but she chose to demonstrate how you can utilize storytelling in another form and fashion. Storytelling is not just about the Connect with Storytelling project, but can actually also be used in the one that she will be doing, writing a speech with a purpose. Distinguished Toastmaster Elka Price today will be demonstrating just that when she presents for us what, so, what, now what, so, what, now what, distinguished Toastmaster Elka Price.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster June. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, R.A. Shirley, and all our fellow Toastmasters and guests. When I was 6 years old, my best friend was a big brown bull mastiff dog named Buster. Every afternoon, I look forward to playing with Buster with much enthusiasm. I would climb on his back without any care in the world and race down the hill with the winds kissing my face and the sun smiling at us. Learning was fun at the bottom of the hill. We laid in the lush grass, and I taught Buster everything I learned in school every single day. One day, Buster was attacked by another dog. They fought and they fought. Then I heard, "Pow!" Buster was shot. He was shot by someone trying to stop them from fighting. Buster died. I'm not sure what happened, but several years later, I had a strange encounter of a canine kind. I was walking down the road when a mean mongrel rushed me and sunk his teeth into my leg, as though I was his supple puppy chow. I was terrified, petrified, mortified, all at the same time. The strange thing was, I passed this dog every single day on the street. I'm not sure what happened. The following week, I stood on the staircase of my friends. Like thin air, a short pug wobbled up the stairs and bit me on that very same leg. You're not going to believe this. But 3 weeks later, I encountered another thing. I was at another friend's house and I was bitten again on the same leg. I landed on the shoulders of the homeowner. Within 3 weeks, I was bitten 3 times by 3 different dogs on the same line. So what? So what? I was later diagnosed with cynophobia, the fear of dogs. This is an uncomfortable situation to be in. The sight of any dog, any size, any type, has my heart racing. At the airport, my legs are heavy as block. When a dog just brushes and sniffs at my leg, I cannot move. I am shaking. I can easily be misprofiled as a suspicious character to the untrained eyes. I no longer visit friends with dogs. And I no longer go anywhere with their dogs. Except for the airport, of course. Just talking about dogs makes me feel nervous and has my heart racing. Know what? What? How is it possible to go from the lovers of dogs to being diagnosed with cynophobia? These experiences have taught me what triggers my fear and what fears I really have. I believe the public needs to be aware of this phobia and to be sensitive to our fears. Training the staff at the airport will make them realize it is not okay to just go up with a dog next to someone. Just like that, even if it's in the name of security. I will never forget Buster and those dog bites. it's time for me to deal with my xenophobia while championing the cause of the xenophobia awareness. It is said that dogs are a man's best friend, but for me, Madam Toastmaster,
xenophobia. Hands up all those who learned something new today. See, I'm waiting for the reactions to come in for those of us. Okay, there we go. Toastmaster Clive, I see your hand raised. Distinguished Toastmaster Melinda, I see your hand raised as well. Toastmaster Marie. And you learn something new every time. Toastmaster Fabiola, I see yours, and Toastmaster Sandro. You learn something new every time you attend a Toastmasters meeting. Like for me, I also had a dog, but I'm a cat person. So given an opportunity, if we could ever teach cats to care, they may make better sniffing cats at the airport, but always more than one solution. Lovely speech. Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Elka Price. Now we are headed to the next step. So again, from the top, when you have finished program quality in the Toastmasters hierarchy, what happens next? What happens next? Where do you go after that?
District director.
You go to district director. All right, lovely. So I'm seeing two answers, but I looked in the participant screen, so I know that one was Toastmaster Corinne. And for you, Toastmaster Corinne, I will also, see, I would be tossing you your mint ball for that correct answer. Since it's virtual, don't worry. I'll put it in the chat for everybody later. We'll get it in the chat. Next is our District 81 director. Now she will be doing her speech entitled Once Upon a Time, a Toastmasters Odyssey. Once upon a time, a Toastmasters Odyssey. Distinguished Toastmaster Melinda Lloyd.
Once upon a time, in the year 1903, there lived a compassionate and visionary soul named Ralph Smedley. He was known for his kind heart, yet one who possessed the determination of a true hero. Ralph peered into his community and noticed a void that troubled him deeply. Young men of his time lacked a platform to hone their networking and presentation skills. In the quiet of his contemplation, Ralph had an epiphanic moment. He wondered, why not create a community? A platform where young people could learn how to converse and toast, a place where they can grow together. The idea excited him, and he decided to share it with his colleagues. As the director of education for the YMCA in Bloomington, Illinois, Ralph set out to coordinate a series of speaking clubs. These clubs will become safe havens where young men could learn valuable skills in a supportive and nurturing environment. Ralph's revolutionary concept was warmly embraced. He believed in the potential of every individual, encouraging them to develop to the fullest and nurturing the unique abilities bestowed upon them by God. And so, on March 24, 1905, the first unofficial Toastmasters meeting was held. Participants took turns leading and speaking, with Smedley and the seasoned men offering evaluations. The term Toastmaster resonated with Ralph, as it referred to those who deliver toasts on special occasions. Thus, the group was christened Toastmasters, and everyone was eager to see what the future held. However, as life often takes unexpected turns, so did the story of Toastmasters. Ralph, a successful and driven young man, was soon promoted, leaving the legacy of Toastmasters in the hands of others. Sadly, many lacked his unwavering dedication, and the program struggled to flourish. Undeterred, And still filled with passion, Smedley found himself in Santa Ana, California, working at the newly organized YMCA. Here, he decided to reintroduce his transformative idea to his then colleagues. Soon, the first ever Toastmasters meeting took place on October 22nd, 1924. Club number 1 was officially chartered as a Smedley Chapter 1 club, marking the official Toastmasters birthday. 2 years later, the second Toastmasters Club emerged in Anaheim, California, and from there, the organization began to thrive. It did become that safe haven for individuals to connect, where communication skills blossomed and where leaders were forged. Manuals such as the Club Management Handbook and the 10 Lessons in Public Speaking Manual became the cornerstones of the Toastmasters education program. But one of the most profound changes was yet to come. Many years later, a man named Homer joined Toastmasters. He made friends. He diligently pursued his Toastmasters program. He achieved significant milestones and was quickly becoming very popular. But there was a secret about Homer that nobody noticed until much later. Homer was not a man, but in fact, a woman, Helen Blanchard, the first female Toastmaster. Her courage and determination in joining as Homer paved the way for over 162,000 women across 149 countries to join Toastmasters. Helen not only inspired countless individuals, but also became the first female international president in 1985, coining the famous quote, "If you get out of Toastmasters, all there is to get out of Toastmasters, you'll probably never get out of Toastmasters." In 1965, we had a sad encounter. The founder and visionary Ralph Smedley passed away, but his legacy lived on through the new Communication and Leadership Manual published later in 1969. And this program transformed Toastmasters into a hub, not only for communication, but also for leadership development, solidifying its identity as the place where leaders are made. Toastmasters expanded beyond borders, landing on Caribbean shores in 1959 with the birth of the first chartered club, Georgetown Toastmasters Club in Guyana. But it didn't stop there. The echoes of Toastmasters' mission reverberated across the turquoise waters. We found clubs being built up and chartered in countries such as Barbados with the Bridgetown Toastmasters Club, in Curacao with the Cimadan Toastmasters Club, St. Croix in the US Virgin Islands, and Trailblazers in Jamaica. These were born from the dedication of veterans who envisioned using the power of Toastmasters to create opportunities for their countrymen. Realizing the significant impact and potential within the Caribbean, Toastmasters International appointed Distinguished Toastmaster Wolf, a native of Jamaica, to spearhead the formation of our Caribbean district. Upon her arrival in Jamaica, Eileen joined forces with a dedicated cadre of Toastmasters to establish the Caribbean Territorial Council, which took form on the 15th of February, 2003. Today, we pay tribute to Eileen and our esteemed forerunners, the likes of Paul Sharp, Derek Adamson, Darcy Lopez, Thelma Cook, and so many other distinguished Toastmasters, some of whom went on to be district governors, helping in shaping our Caribbean community, which we now know today as District 81. Presently, our Caribbean Toastmasters community serves over 3,500 members, spanning 207 clubs over 28 countries. Together with 128 other districts and our undistricted community, we are Ralph Smedley's legacy. With a rich and vibrant history, Toastmasters International is poised to achieve its vision for the future, to be the first choice provider of dynamic, high-value, experiential communication and leadership skills development. For those on a quest to transform their lives, uplift others, and become the best version of themselves, Toastmasters beckons. As our founder wisely put it, Ours is the only organization I know dedicated to the individual. We work together to bring out the best in each other and then apply these skills to help others. I encourage each and every one of us to continue inviting others to join our community, join our family, join our district, and let Toastmasters weave this wonder in their lives, creating their own Toastmasters Odyssey. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the evening.
A Toastmasters Odyssey, the journey of how we ended up here. No, just because today is we're doing a plug thing. 99th anniversary is this year, but what is happening next year? I have another mint ball to give out. So what is happening next year and where is it happening? That's going to be a big deal for Toastmasters. I see Toastmaster Sandra hand went up before.
Back in Trinidad and Tobago.
Where are we going to be?
Trinidad and Tobago. You know, California Toastmasters International Convention.
Okay, so Toastmaster Sandra, you get the mint ball, but guess what? We're going to plug the district conference in Trinidad as well. And since we were on theme, right? Masquerade, Carnival, Junkanoo, we're going to get all up in theme for the 100th anniversary. But there you go. I will DM you your specific mint ball for answering, because I was making reference to the fact that Anaheim, California is what we will be doing for the conference.
100.
100, an entire century of Toastmasters.
Yep.
Next to the virtual space, we will be having ERA Director Melissa Harrison. Now, she will be connecting via a source of a different kind of artistic pursuit with her title, Sing Me a Song. Sing Me a Song, Melissa Harrison. And I hope I get this right. Please correct me if I don't. Grenuva.
Day-o, daylight come and me want go home. Hey, me say day, day-o, daylight come and me want go home. Fellow Toastmasters and friends, work all night on a drink of rum, and daylight come and me want go home. Stack banana till tomorrow come. Daylight come and me want go home. Music has always had a place in our home. Melodies could be heard coming from 3 distinct places at any given time. The static radio in my grandmother's kitchen, the television in the living room, or from my grandmother. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. Daylight come and me want go home. My grandmother would sing her way throughout the day. Music had a way of making the work lighter, she would always say. And as she sang, it seemed like her body would lightly sing along as she swayed her hips and her hands and the cleaning cloth to the intonations of the song. Lift 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot punch, and daylight come and me want go home. I always watched her in amazement, as she seemed to always be in her own world once music was around. Never in my life did I ever see my grandmother stack bananas or sell them, or were we ever introduced into Mr. Tallyman or who he was. But this was her song, and she would say, there's always that one song, child, a song that take you past the lyrics and into a whole other place. The melody, the bass, the feeling between the words, and it gets stuck, and you remember it forever. Day, me say day, me say day, me say day. She always encouraged us to find our own song. And if she heard me today, she would say, stop singing hers. It's almost as if like she owned the rights to this song or had shares in it. Like somehow she knew Harry Belafonte personally, but that's a different story for another day. As my grandmother grew into her very old age, her voice was no longer loud and she couldn't move around as much as she would like to. But she hummed her favorite song and it always made her smile and laugh. This was her one song. Even when she lost her eyesight, she was bedridden, music soothed her, and she hummed until she left us. Research has shown that listening or singing music can help reduce anxiety, improve our sleep, our mood, mental alertness, and memory. Music can calm us down and rise us up. We feel the emotional experiences through music. Robert Nesta Marley rightly said, one good thing about music, when it hits, you feel no pain. And I felt that. Music tells our stories, holds our memories, and reminds us of who and whose we are. As a Caribbean people, music is woven into the very fabric of our ancestry. As we listen to the plethora of songs and anthems that come across our radio screens and YouTube selections, there's always that one song. A song that rocks us from side to side, a song that champions our cause, a song that says the words we cannot say, a song that relates our frustration through rhythm. I am living while I'm living, to the Father I will pray. Only him know how we get through. Every day with all the hike in a price, like we have to pay while our leaders play. The next time you feel down, lost, or unsure of what to do next, turn on the music, and if you're brave enough, turn it all the way up. Listen for that one song that will get you back to the right path. The one song that stays with you forever. Day, me say day, oh, daylight come and me want go home. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much for that. You know, normally at the end of a speech, we always say, you don't say thank you. What's supposed to happen is that the audience is supposed to say thank you. Well, how I'm going to ask you for thank you, A.M. Melissa. I was corrected. You are the administrative manager for the district. So you keep the notes, probably why you came on now, you know, because you're the one who reads the minutes for everybody. But I'm going to ask you to pull up that song again and come tally some banana for me. And that's going to be my comment. We're going to dance together. That's going to be my comment on your speech. Let's go. Ready? You're muted.
I'm so excited and I'm muted. Day, me say day, me say day, me say day, oh. Daylight come and me want go home. Day, me say day. And back to our regular programming.
Again, thank you, A.M. Melissa. Next to the virtual space, we have the lady who, if you look right now in the participant screen, was born rich. An author and one of our featured speakers. Oh. All right, let's rewind. I'm still at Dale. Let me dance it out. You see, whenever you start making a mistake, this one you shake it off and you dance it out. Okay, rewind. We didn't hear that happen. From the top. In the words of Willy Wonka. Rewind. If you look in the participant screen, you will see that this lady was born rich. Now, she is one of our featured speakers today because she is a St. Lucian author. So she is from the St. Lucian soil, meaning from district from Division C and not imported like some of us who are here. We won't say who got adopted because they're a part of Platinum. But she is homegrown in Division C, author of the book Born Rich. But today she will be telling us about how a world can change. A world of change. Toastmaster Jacinta Fontanelle. Toastmaster Jacinta Fontanelle, a world of change.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. A world of change. I will con the same sentence by Toastmaster Tashi. Change is inevitable. And because of that, we need to embrace change. Two phrases that she used, and she went before me, so I cannot say she copied my phrases. I will say I copied her phrases without knowing. I have to credit change with achieving my dream. I will look at one area of change that exemplifies my journey in achieving one of my dreams for travel. I grew up in the community of Monrepo, which was a rural community, and walking, we called it using number 11, our legs. That was our primary form of transportation. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can.
My father, who was a farmer, always had donkeys. And so it was a treat to go up one level and ride on the donkey. Every August, we spent a week with my father at his cabin, and we took turns as children riding on the donkey, even though his primary purpose was for heavy loads. Now, the horse and buggy that I illustrate here was another form of transportation, but it wasn't common to us. We just knew about it once in our lifetime, we may get a ride on it. What was most common to us was the bus. The bus was the way we got from our little community to the town. And I remember waking up at 4 a.m. If you had to take a trip to the town, it was the most exciting thing because you had to go to bed early. You would be up at 4 to get ready, because if you missed that bus, you missed the day's events. And the bus, we had maybe 2 or 3 buses, and they would travel within an hour between 5 and 6 and return between 5 and 6 in the evening. Between that time, there were no buses. So that was an exciting event, and we rarely ever made it to the town. But my parents, being who they were, did get an opportunity to take most of us into the city or the town. The other form of transportation, which I learned about but did not experience until much later in my life, were the boats. My mother happened to be a speculator or a businesswoman who bought and sell produce between Barbados, Martinique, and St. Lucia. And the boat was her form of transportation. There were many stories she related about her adventures. As I grew up, I always wanted to travel. That was one of my dreams. I used to, the rare occasions when I went to the airport, I would see that aircraft leaving, and I was dreaming that I would be in that aircraft. I really didn't care where it was going. I just needed to be in an aircraft. And not only did the changes in my life as a nurse and just living life bring all those dreams to come true, but I ended up also traveling on a cruise ship, which to me is a hotel on the sea. I don't know, they should really have a different name for it instead of a ship, because this is like a hotel on the sea. I was able to fly in a helicopter where I was dropped down in Dominica during a disaster. I experienced trains, both overground and underground, the minibus. I actually owned a car. And dreams of dreams, I traveled on many an aircraft. One of the things about change that I discovered is that they merge. They don't stand alone. I started off number 11 being the primary form of transportation. But then walking has been discovered as being one of the healthiest forms of exercise. So even though change brings us to the car where we drive most places, we are told that walking is still most healthy for you. The horse and buggy, as a tourist, that's the most one of the most attractive stress relieving exercises you can take. The donkey that we look forward to, it was a treat. Now our treat is to fly or to get, like on the upper right, my daughter getting a ride or driving in a vehicle. The old and the new. We have to realize that change is inevitable, but it is an important part of life. Once we embrace it, we learn to step outside our comfort zone as great Toastmasters, and the changes become experiences that build us up, that help us appreciate the old and merge it into the new, and realize that keeping the old make us much more healthy and well-rounded individuals. Toastmaster.
Change is inevitable, and as someone who is noted for the numerous trips on the Zoom plane all around the world, I can tell you, change can actually be a wonderful thing and can actually help to take things to another level. But sometimes when we are indeed incorporating in change, and we get to the point where we get so immersed in the amazement of the words, life, and all that transcends in our speeches, we occasionally get so lost that we actually end up, well, animated. And to introduce our next Art Talk speaker, we had one, now here comes the second Art Talk speaker, distinguished Toastmaster, Marline Stephenson Dalley. Now she has a long list of accolades, but this is one that I know that she holds close to her heart because the book that she authored was actually done for her grandchildren. Now, can you imagine that Toastmasters is not only aiding the experience of, and I can't say world class, because whenever I shared what we did for Platinum Artistics anniversary anywhere in the world to demonstrate what the club is about, everybody goes, you picked the perfect host. So she is a world class media personality, but credits Toastmasters for her family. Introducing us with not just her art talk, but also her speech today on her book, Dog Tales, distinguished Toastmaster Marline Stephenson Dalley.
Toastmaster Elka Price, I'm so sorry to hear about Buster, and I'm sorry to hear about your xenophobia. And we will talk off air, because I too had a bit of xenophobia, and I too have been bitten by dogs. But today I want to share with you, it is part fact, part fiction, a tale of my own creation. I recently self-published, as Toastmaster Joni indicated, and I'm really very delighted that my target audience seems to like my book. I want you, Toastmasters and guests, to close your eyes. Close your eyes. Take a moment to assume the age of 9 or 10, and picture yourself curled up in your couch with an icy cold lemonade and maybe some popcorn and your new favorite book. The book is dedicated to Robin, Ryan, and Cairo, my grandchildren, and indeed to all the children and grandchildren of the world. And I want to thank my son, Blaine Anthony, who gave me a greater appreciation for man's best friend. So are your eyes closed? I'm going to share with you a little bit from the book, Dog Tales. And the first segment is entitled, Will Peter Get His Wish? Once upon a time, there was a young boy named Peter Wright. He lived on a hill on a beautiful little island. From his front porch, he had a panoramic view of the Caribbean Sea. As he stared at the turquoise and mostly calm waters, he would often dream of one day having a puppy. His birthday was coming up, and maybe his mom would let him have one as a present. Why not? His father had a dog, and before him, his grandfather had a dog. In fact, his grandfather, who had lost an arm in a motor vehicle accident, had a dog who also lost a leg in a motor vehicle accident. And they were oh so close, best friends. It was as if they were kindred spirits. They shared so much. So Peter decided to try to convince his mom that if he got a puppy for his birthday, he would be diligent and take good care of him. Please, 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 Mommy, he pleaded. I'll do everything to keep him safe. Think about it, Peter. Having a pet will take a lot of work. You will have to feed him, walk him, brush his coat, and make sure he doesn't get into trouble. Peter prayed that his dream would come true. His birthday was only days away. He thought to himself, I should ask Daddy to help to convince Mom. In no time, the birthday arrived, and there was much anticipation as Peter, who awakened very early, continued to pray. Dear Lord, please, please let Mommy get me a dog for my birthday. Please, Lord. As he came down the stairs, he noticed a gift on the side table wrapped in bright blue paper. He felt sad. Am I not going to get my wish? Soon, Mom came in beaming. She sang, Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Peter. Happy birthday to you. She handed him the gift on the side table. He felt a little better and was thankful as he opened the box to find a brand new pair of sneakers that he had seen in the store window the week before. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. I really love this gift. You're welcome, son. I love you. Peter quickly tried on his sneakers and he walked around the room to try them out. He was strutting and grinning, but it was not his usual grin because he was still thinking about a puppy. Mom went about her business, cleaning the house and doing the laundry. It was a tiresome day. As evening approached, Dad drove into the garage and Peter ran to meet him. Mom, Daddy's home, Daddy's home, he shouted. Daddy opened the rear door of the car and took a little box from the back seat. Hello, son. Happy birthday, he said as he handed the box to Peter. What will you name him? Peter excitedly opened the box. It was the most beautiful puppy he had ever seen. His tail wagged from side to side. His coat, which was bluish gray and white, was soft and smooth. And he had big blue eyes. One look, and it was love at first sight. Thank you so much, Daddy. Thank you. He is so cute. He's adorable. Let's call him Blue. And Toastmasters and guests, that's just the first part of Dog Tales. Of course, Peter goes on to learn how to care for Blue, and then Peter goes on to take Blue to the vet. In the back is a glossary with words that you should know, and it is great reading for children 5 to 12 years old. Madame Toastmaster. Now, Madame Toastmaster, I am not seeing the timer, and I'm going to ask.
You are within time, Madam Speaker, and you can go on to your art talk now.
Okay. Well, let me share screen. One moment. Let's see. The host has spotlighted. Sorry. Let me try again. One moment, please. Let me ensure that my PowerPoint is open and go back. There you go. Okay. Are you seeing my screen now?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so Toastmasters and guests, I want to talk to you a little bit this evening about the making of Dog Tales. I have always scribbled and dabbled, and I've always wanted to write a book. I have a few which I believe are somewhere with a lot of dust on it. And one of the things that I believe why they're sitting there is a little bit of what some people may refer to as imposter syndrome. There are 3 P's or 4 P's of imposter syndrome. One, they say, and this is according to the writers on the subject, perfectionism. So you hope that your book is going to be perfect, or whatever it is you do is going to be perfect. And so sometimes you refrain from doing it. It almost paralyzes you. So the second P is paralysis. And the third P is people pleasing. Are people not going to like my work? Are they not going to like whatever it is I'm doing? And that lends itself to procrastination. And so I begin by saying that I think I might have had a combination of any of these 4 Ps at different times. And so that has held me back. But as one quote says, the love of a dog is a pure thing. If you can get the trust of your canine friend, you will find that it is a totally different experience, as I have found. So what inspired me to write Dog Tales? The inspiration, I would say, twofold. One would be the birth of 11. So Blue is a real dog. Blue is my son's dog. I used to be a little jealous of all of these dogs. Right now I have all of 8. I am grandmother to 8 dogs. And Blue, as his name is in real life, came into our lives and I just hated him. He took up so much time and so much attention. He ate my cheese, he ate my chicken leg, and I just hated Blue. But then Blue got a friend, Cleopatra. And from Blue and Cleopatra came the most beautiful puppies I'd ever seen. If you notice, their eyes are actually blue. These are just some of the litter of 11. I watched my son one evening from about 7 o'clock, helping Cleopatra to give birth. And it was such an amazing thing to see each little puppy in its own little sack, to see the mother go into labor with the contractions and the pain and pushing, and he was helping her. And as they came out, he would take them from the little sack and put them to the breast. And she was such a wonderful mother. She cared so much for the 11 babies. She didn't have enough nipples to feed them, but he was so caring. He would move them around, and she was just amazing. And out of that experience, even though I really didn't like these dogs, I started to have a different perspective. So I would say my inspiration for writing Dog Tales would be 1, the birth of those 11 puppies. And then, of course, the other inspiration, the validation of a granddaughter who helped me to overcome this crippling self-doubt that had me sitting with this book for a very, very long time. I sent it to her and I said, Robin, can you read this book and give Grandma some feedback? And she said, sure, Grandma. And when she read it, she called me back and she said, Grandma, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give you a 10.5. An aha moment. And I thought, if Robin loves it, and she's a very discerning 10-year-old at the time she was 9, then maybe I should share this with her sister and her many cousins, and of course, all the children. I moved on from getting her feedback to taking the book. I'm the chairman of the board of a school that has about 1,000+ children. And on Read Across Jamaica Day, I walked with my manuscript and I shared it with some of the children in the grade 4 class. And they loved the book. And they wanted me to give them the one copy that I had. And I said, wow, then there must be something about this book. And then, of course, Cairo came. That's my other he's my grandson. And my 2 granddaughters, the older of the 2 girls, she started to read to Cairo as well. Cairo was quite pleased, even though he doesn't understand a thing that the book is saying. But that again, for me, was another bit of inspiration. And there is Robin and Ryan enjoying Dog Tales. She's reading her personal copy for her little sister, who's only 5. But what about the process? What are some of the things that I had to do? So I wrote the book in little bits and pieces. And as I said, it's part fact and part fiction. So much of it looking at things like diversity. Yes, he had a grandfather who had lost an arm and a dog who had lost a leg, and they were very good friends. So all of that is woven into, that's truth woven into fiction. But the process also included not just the writing and the rewriting and the testing, sharing with children who were the target group, but also getting the illustration done. And for the illustration, incidentally, I did a contra deal for the illustration. So the book has several pages of pictures. And this was done by a gentleman who took one of the puppies. So the puppies came up for sale. And this gentleman, who I had done some business with before, to do some illustrations for me for some comics, he said he could do it for me. I said, I have no money to pay you. He said, well, okay, give me one of the puppies. And he came all the way from Kingston with a cage, and he took one of the puppies, and I paid him the difference. So it was a contra deal for the illustration. And as I said, it took quite some time because he took that puppy in October last year, and I published in September this year. So it took quite some time. I decided to self-publish because it was an option that presented itself to me. And a couple of things that I must say to you that if you're interested in publishing, you need to think about as well. So I utilized Amazon KDP. Now, I'm not techie savvy. So you can just imagine the nightmare it was for me, just trying to plod through and doing an upload, and they're sending back to say, no, this isn't correct. You need to have a particular margin, the page, you know, the this, the that, the Kindle is different, the hard copy is different. And if you don't have X number of pages, you can't do a hardcover. It had to be a paperback. And then, of course, I had to make sure I got my ISBN, that's my International Standard Book Number, through the Jamaica Library Service. And in fact, when you do that, you have to deposit 2 copies at least, or else you can be liable for a fine if you don't do that. Then you have to have an imprint, which is the name of the publisher. Now, if I had known that I could have gone ahead and done my own imprint, I would not have had the library service do the imprint because it ended up being Marline Stephenson Dalley, and I really didn't want to have my name on it twice. Then, of course, there's the business of copyright. You're going to copyright your work to ensure that you own the intellectual property. And so you have to go through JIPO, that's the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office. All of that. And then the several uploads, making sure you're meeting the specifications. And then, of course, you want to get paid, right? So at the end of the day, you have to have some sort of system set up so you can get paid. I'm happy to report that in my first 3 weeks, I sold 47 books. And I had some very, very good responses, which have really helped me to feel like, yes, this is something that has made an impact. Right now, I'm working on the launch and the promotion of the book. I hope to use both traditional and a new media, digital media, to do the promotion. I want to make sure that I can have a little launch. And I've already had one organization that has indicated an interest to have me to take the books on consignment. And I can come in and do an author signing on a Saturday evening, that sort of thing. And then we want to make sure that we're going to be doing an IG launch. And we want to also do a little book tour with some of the schools, the smaller schools that are targeted for this particular publication. So we're working on that. But while we're working on that, I just want to share with you, these are readers that I don't know. They're unknown to me. I shared the link on Amazon with a friend, and she shared it with other friends, and they bought the books, and the kids would have taken the photographs, and even the grandmother would have taken the photographs and sent them back to her and asked them to send it to the author. I must tell you, Toastmasters and guests, that this for me is joy. I really, really am happy that youngsters are enjoying it. And even as I talk about the launch, I'm trying to make sure that it is affordable for Jamaicans, for children in our area, because when I check the pricing, it's priced at $9.99 on Amazon USA. It's also available on Amazon UK and Amazon Canada. And I've had sales in all 3 territories, but it is quite expensive to ship it to Jamaica. So we're presently arranging the launch and trying to ensure that we have books here at the cheapest possible cost to make it affordable for our youngsters. So as I said, this gives me joy. I had my first 5-star review, and it says, Dog Tales is a wonderful, fun read, perfect for kids, educational, captivating, and a page turner. There's also a gentle message of differences, patience, and gratefulness, which is heartwarming and empowering. The book is not only engaging, but is also complemented with riveting illustrations as a visual treat that correlates with the story being told. The bright colors, meticulous and expressive artwork made the reading experience fun. The glossary is expansive, helps with language acquisition, and allows young readers to learn the meanings of nuanced words. This is a must read, and I highly recommend this book for household and classroom reading. And that, I believe, is an endorsement of Dog Tales. And just in case you want to get your own copy, you can take a screenshot. That's the Amazon link for Dog Tales in the USA. And you can reach me on IG at Marley Step or my telephone number, 876-770-4107. At the end of it all, Toastmasters and guests, sometimes you've got to take a chance, take that leap of faith. And like Nike says, just do it. Madam Toastmaster.
I love the take a leap of faith and just do it concept. Storytelling can be so amazing. When was the last time you moved from not crying, you're crying, audience in here, to the biggest smile you've ever had so that your cheeks hurt, to oh, that was too funny with the plush eye. That's the beauty of how we connect with stories. We get the opportunity to run the entire gauntlet of emotions, living vicariously through those who speak. And I hope I wasn't the only person to feel the entire range of emotions listening to our amazing speakers present today. There was even some morbidity thrown in. 'Tis the season for Halloween, so we could go and grasp our pearls. But here comes the fun part of any Toastmasters meeting, evaluation. It's a cornerstone of the Toastmasters experience. And today, in our concept curation corner, after all, it is stories, we had to hit it a bit different. We'll start by asking our timer how we're doing on time so our evaluators will know for their presentation. Toastmaster Jasmine Smith, how are we doing for time?
Okay. I believe Toastmaster Air Director Carolee Leah has the timing for Patrick Chester, but for Caprice Clark, I have 5 minutes and 24 seconds. Jackie Jacob, 7 minutes and 32 seconds. Alwyn St. Olmer, 6 minutes and 42 seconds. Marcellus of Omer, 7 minutes and 15 seconds. Corinne Thomas, 7 minutes and 21 seconds. Tashi Brown, 6 minutes and 34 seconds. Elka Price, 6 minutes and 28 seconds. Melinda Lloyd, 7 minutes and 36 seconds. Melissa Harrison, 5 minutes and 7 seconds. And Jacinta Fontanelle, 7 minutes and 14 seconds. And for our art talk, the first section, that was 7 minutes and 19 seconds. And Toastmaster Marley, yes, for the second section, we have 11 minutes and 50 seconds. That's it for my report.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Jasmine Smith, for keeping track of time. Now, Toastmaster Carolee did, in her true Carolee fashion, give the time for our first speaker, Patrick Chester, it was 5 minutes, 50 seconds, and 50 death of Toastmaster Carolilia, you have to unmute and do it your way.
Okay, he spoke for 5 minutes, 50 seconds, and 8/400 of a second.
Down to the millisecond, I call her, or millisecond timer as well, filling in, because that's what we do as Toastmasters. Up next, we have our first evaluator, who is Toastmaster Akira Moulton. Now, she is the president of the Nova Power Speakers, and she will be evaluating Toastmaster Patrick Chester.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the evening. Toastmaster Patrick, congratulations on completing this project and also for meeting the time requirement. I liked that you stood for your presentation. It created expectancy and excitement for me. I thought that your use of gestures and descriptive language was very good. It captivated me. Old Lady Stella, her eyes were blood red and she was dirty black. I'd like to encourage you, however, with the following things. In the beginning, it was a bit apparent that you were reading, and I'd just like to make that recommendation that for future projects, you get a little bit more acquainted with the material so that you don't lose your audience. Also, I noticed that your dialect may have chipped in at some point. And so my recommendation is that you find a comfortable balance between the standard English and of course your mother tongue based on the audience that you are presenting to. Nonetheless, I found that your vocal variety was very good. That spell and the cackling sound that Lady Stella made, and also your use of props, the waxing of that broom, wow. I was scared at some point, I was shocked, I was amused, but I was thoroughly entertained. Continue speaking, continue being a great storyteller, and thank you so much for your presentation this evening. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Back to you, Toastmaster of the evening.
Thank you, Toastmaster Akira Moulton Ferron, for that evaluation. Next, we have Region Advisor, too many accolades to speak of, distinguished Toastmaster Shirley Dalley, who will be evaluating Toastmaster Caprice Clark's speech. Distinguished Toastmaster Shirley Dalley, the virtual space is yours.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. It's actually past Region Advisor. Thank you. I'm just happy to be here and being regaled by all of these stories. Toastmaster Caprice Clark, how God brought me out alive. Your story was quite intriguing, and I was measuring it based on the 7-minute video that we were taught in terms of how did it meet the different characteristics. I could appreciate when you have a dream, how you would pursue it. And you took us from beginning straight through to the end. All the challenges that you faced along the way, and importantly, how you were able to overcome them. We saw your stick-to-itiveness coming out, which is so important when we are pursuing our dreams because we can be distracted along the way. We heard the passion in your voice as you went for that dream. Nothing was going to stop you. That's what was communicated. You got that scholarship and you were delighted. It pushed you to another level. Working the 2 jobs, yes. And it really validated your point that you have to believe in yourself. You have to be able to do that as you pursue your dream and not allow the distractions to cause you to lose hope. It is said that if you want to have a dream come true, you have to wake up. And that you did. I want to recommend that as you continue to share your story with us, you engage in a little vocal variety, because there were times of sadness, there were times of joy, and we really didn't, I certainly didn't see the difference in your tone. So like me, you're a loudspeaker. And so there are times when it will be merited for you to go a little lower, especially when you're sharing something that is sad. So that could be an area that you'd want to work on. I want to recommend too that you practice a little bit more how to present online, and that will also help the connection to be stronger. And mark you, I just said to be stronger because we really connected with you. As a person who have had challenges too, I know the importance of not giving up, and you underscored that for me. And the fact that you do need support along the way, you validated the support that your father gave you, and he was right there with you. Thank you so much for sharing with us, and keep sharing your story. Find a way to put in it how God really helped you, because you kept referring to him, that he took you through. Share a moment for us, or with us, with your audience, as to when you got his favor. Bless you, and keep climbing.
Thank you, past region advisor. It changes every year with Toastmaster, and based on the fact that the changes occurs, sometimes it's a lot when you're in a lot of places, but excellent evaluation. And I know that Toastmaster Caprice will take it whenever she has to present as it relates to her book. Next to the virtual space, we have evaluator Marie-Claude Legrand. Also someone who I introduced by saying, bonjour Marie, ça va? Please don't answer me in French. The virtual space is yours.
Merci, Madame, the Toastmaster of the evening. And Toastmaster Jacqueline English Jacobs. Are you listening to me?
Yes, please.
Yes. I fell in love with your wonderful story. You know why? First, because it could have been an ordinary day where when you felt upset and everything went down till you made your final decision. But you made it a story, a memorable story, an inspiring story. First, that's what I liked with it. And also the title. Wow, what a hack. The game of word is always a good thing to start a story with. And also, you had that repetition of the expression, your own expression, what a hack, which is very recommended to capture the attention, to catch the attention of your audience and make your story more reliable and more enjoyable. That's what you did. And I suggest that you continue to do that with your storytelling or the part of your speeches that has a story. And also you had a well-structured speech. But where was the call to action? Or the moral of the story? You could have finished your story with a call to action, or what we call the moral of the story. What do you want your audience to get with that story? Not only your experience and how you dealt with it. And yes, there were a lot of images talking about your body language. Oh my God. It was wonderful. I was in awe with the vocal variety, the way you started crying, with that the audience catches, the way also you make your gestures, to make us reminisce the story that we didn't even live, excuse me. And also the question you ask your audience, But I felt that with the vocal variety, there were too many articulation at the beginning of your story, at the beginning of your speech with the introduction. Too many words were articulated for no reason. That's only that. So, and also your transition. You had transition. And in fact, you had a transition, a very memorable transition, a very remarkable transition before your final decision not to give up anything. So in conclusion, I suggest that when you do your your body language, your vocal variety, your facial expression that were awesome, you don't exaggerate with your vocal variety for no reason. And also, you always have the moral of your story. All right? And you could have had more characters. You had characters that were not involved really in your story, but with that, you could practice your vocal variety more and change it from one character to another. Apart from that, it was a wonderful story. Congratulations. And I wish to hear you soon. Thank you. Madam the Toastmaster of the evening, the lead is yours again.
Thank you, Toastmaster Marie, for your in-depth evaluation of our speaker. Next to the virtual space will be the lady who gave one of the examples. No, she is not doing writing a speech with a purpose. She's actually, get this, wearing many hats and evaluating not one, but two speeches. Toastmaster Lori Hippolyte will be doing her evaluation. The virtual space is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. Madam Zoom Master, can I please beg your indulgence in pinning Toastmaster Alwyn to the screen with me? Okay. While you're working on pinning Toastmaster Alwyn with me, I would just like to say this, Toastmaster Alwyn, by giving you a story of my own. A few weeks ago, as a literature teacher, I had a moment in my classroom. A moment where, in doing a poem and asking my students to expound on the poem the way they understand it, one of my students actually broke down in tears. And that was a powerful moment for me as a teacher, because it says to me that it resonated with the students. And you could have heard a pin drop in that classroom, and everybody was attentive. That is the epiphany of a great literature class. Toastmaster Alwyn, today, you did the same thing to me. And there is no higher commendation for a storyteller, a writer, or a painter than knowing that your piece resonated so well with the person that you brought them to tears. So much so that I'm speaking to you and my heart is still in a vice grip because your piece was so powerful. Here are some reasons why your piece resonated with me. One, I looked at your press conference before you went to England. You may not know that, but I looked at it. I followed you on Facebook, and I was so happy to know that, yes, I know this Toastmaster who is going to England for his painting. But hearing the story behind this outstanding series, The Moon Dancer, really gripped me. While you were speaking, as a great piece would do, I brought myself into the story. You were talking about the moon dancers at Christmas, and I was hearing masquerade at Carnival. We have our own level here. We call it Jab Jab or Diablo Diablo. But it so resonated with me when you said that the mask as a silent link to the motherland, a link to rebellion, the symbol of redemption. That was so powerful and it resonated with me. What also resonated with me is that sometimes we think that we have some unique cultures in the Caribbean, but we are all one people. And wherever you go, that African culture shines through. And it is a conversation piece, as you would have found out in England. So I'm really happy that you shared your story. One recommendation I would have for you, you would have gone through the story and you related very well, especially with your background and your conversational tone, you related very well. But I would like you to work on the ending of your story and bringing in a strong call to action. Because when you were finished, I was still left wanting more. Because I thought, oh, you're not finished. So I want you to bring in that strong call to action so the persons know, I am finished now, but I'm leaving this with you. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Alvin.
Again, thank you. And I know that Toastmaster Alwyn will take your advice into account for the next time he is doing his speech. I'm still practicing on the vocal variety to get you, Alwyn. One day I will. Next on or to our virtual space is none other than the current Vice President of Membership, formerly Sergeant at Arms of the Platinum Artistic Toastmasters Club. Toastmaster Roger Hirel will be here to do his evaluation. The virtual space is yours.
Toastmaster Marcella, I find it very special because it's actually the mentee evaluating the mentor. So I'm being very particular on how this is going to go about. Your speech inspiration, I must say, did bring a big impact. It did inspire a lot of people. It had people open their eyes. And I must say that you brought the journey of how it started as a hobby, a passion, and you transformed it into a business where you are meeting with different people, you're designing, and you know, at the end, especially where you brought out your daughter's wedding dress, it was a nice touch. So kudos to you for that. Your vocal variety and your clarity was very good. I liked how you had the different tones and you can see like the passion. You can see, you know, you were excited about it. Your eye contact as well, I must say, it has improved from the other speeches. It has improved a great bit. So I'm very thankful for that because I have been watching your speeches from time to time. So it has definitely improved. What I believe that you can work on is actually the gestures and the pacing. What I did realize was while you were talking, you were moving your hands a lot. And while the gestures did fit in certain areas very properly, I realized because your hands were moving and moving, your pace actually moved almost to a point where there was a time in your speech where your voice actually went up. And I was like, eh. But I realized it was from the gesture. So you just need to tone it down a little bit, you know, just to be more centered. I would like to end with the impact. The impact was very good. I did see a lot of people interested. I'm always looking in the chat to see who is really paying attention, who is really listening, and people were very impressed and interested. You may never know, you may get some of the customers here for future weddings. So all in all, just to reiterate, I love the fact that your vocal variety and you're very clear. I believe you can work on the gestures and the pacing, and your impact was very good at the end. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you for that, Toastmaster Roger. For today, the protege has become the mentor. Next to the virtual space, we will be having the lady who times via the millisecond. So let's see how detailed her evaluation is going to be of distinguished Toastmaster Corinne Thomas, Toastmaster Carolilia, Area Director Carolilia. The virtual space is yours.
Thank you. Can you also pin distinguished Toastmaster Corinne? Thank you. The purpose of distinguished Toastmaster Corinne's project, Connect with Storytelling, is to practice using a story within a speech or giving a speech that is a story. And I'm pleased to say that objective was met. Keep your fork in your hand was a very intriguing title. I wondered what you were coming with. And oh boy, the opening had my mouth watering. How you started with a story leading to another story, and they're both intertwined. I loved how you were comfortable with the story, and you had a story, you had a advice to give to us, which was I took away from. The both stories actually demonstrated two things for me: the importance of living our life to the best of our ability, and the two, make sensible choices as we go through life. For instance, the gentleman who chose exotic dessert, that is his choice. And the explanation he gave: enjoy life while you can, because you don't know what tomorrow holds. The second story, regarding to hold your fork in your hand, with the lady telling the pastor, was a very powerful message. And I'm hoping we will take it, the nuggets away with it. I also liked your voice variation. It waved, just like the clouds meandering through the sky, so you could get the ups and the downs of your story. You're clear and you're precise with your story. As I would say, I got it interesting in the story, and as your paragraph, I got more mouth-watering, like slicing through this ice cream with a spoon and not with a fork. My takeaway is happiness and peace of mind, which is very crucial in today's world. And also, you only live your life once, and it's best to live it. And if you live it right, once is only good enough. This still shows Master Corinne. I only have one recommendation to give to you, and it's you could use a fork to give to the story a props, as well as a picture of the ice cream. It'd be interesting to see the ice cream and the fork coming together to merge your both stories. It was also very humorous, and I love that. Overall, you displayed great storytelling. As a matter of fact, you had me thinking back to days of when my mother used to lecture me about the importance of holding a fork and when not to hold a fork. Also, you held the audience's attention. What I also like is what you close with: the importance of holding the fork and waiting for the best to come. In closing, I would say continue with your storytelling, and also remember to use props to give more oomph to your story. Overall, move on to your next project, and well done. Back to you, Toastmaster, for the day.
Thank you, Madam Millisecond, Area Director Carol Lilia, for your detailed evaluation. Next, we will be having Area Director for, and I have to plug this because she is the Platinum Artistic Area Director and an Area Director here in Division C, Nadia Jules, who will be coming along to do her evaluation. The virtual space is yours.
Thank you, DTM Johnny. Can I be spotlighted with DTM Brown, please? And could I also have the time?
Madam Timer, do you mind repeating the time?
Okay, 6 minutes and 34 seconds.
Awesome. Thank you. 6 minutes, 30 seconds.
34
Oh,
seconds.
34 seconds.
34.
Thank you. Change is inevitable. Toastmaster Tashi. What a powerful introduction. A strong, powerful introductory statement. Now you showed that power throughout your speech. You had a powerful tone, so you commanded my attention. You had a powerful body language. Now, although I didn't see your feet, I know that you were standing erect. Your shoulders were held back, your head held high, and with eye contact as well. So your eye contact was very intentional. You were clear, you were articulate. Here is what I think that could have taken this storytelling presentation from good to greatest. This is a very illustrative story, and I am familiar with the story Who Moved My Cheese. And so I'd have loved to see you change your background to show me those 4 characters. I'd have loved to see them. You did say that they were 4 little people. Well, 2 mice and 2 little people. So I'd have loved to see the distinction between them. And also the picture would have been able to show me scurry and sniff, differentiate between those 2, meaning that they both have S and S at the beginning of their name. So that would have confused a little. And also with hem and haw, because it starts with H and H as well. So I'd have loved to be able to see the differentiation between the 2 of them. You had a total of maybe 4 characters, and with the 2 mice and the 2 little people and your voice and you as the narrator. With such a powerful voice, I'd have loved to see the distinction between the 4 other characters. For example, Scurry and Sniff had this very upbeat, enthused attitude. So I'd have loved to see when you had a little, although there were little instances where they were speaking, I'd have loved to see you come into character with their voices. Also with hem and haw, they're a bit melodramatic and pessimistic. So they would have to be a little, oh, I don't know, oh, my cheese. So I'd have loved to see that distinction between the 4 and in combination with your own voice as well. Your call to action. I wanted a stronger, more motivational and persuasive call to action. They say the rhetorical question is a bit cliche, but it works. So I wanted to ask me, which one of the 4 characters do I see myself as? And if it's Scurry and Sniff, then applaud me and say, well done, keep on moving in that direction. And if I find myself in hem and haw, could persuade me to move towards being a Scurry or a Sniff. Call me to action. Say, hey, this is not the stage for you to be. Let's move forward. So here's what I'd like you to do, Toastmaster Tashi. In the next storytelling, just on your own, find a story that allows you to be a little more free, a little more emotive, a little more action. So therefore you have that versatile. I mean, you have such a powerful voice. And if you can include a more vocal variety, more freeness with your body, I would love to see you do a storytelling incorporating that. Or in your next project, if you do have a podcast within that project, try that. That'll allow you to use your powerful voice as well as, use different fluctuations in your voice, use different tones, use different storylines. So it'll allow you to be more versatile with your storytelling. Other than that, Toastmaster Tashi, thank you very much for allowing me to be your evaluator, and I look forward to you presenting again. Thank you.
Now, the important thing that I've been hearing throughout our evaluations, not only have our evaluators been evaluating to motivate, but they've been giving suggestions on how we can improve. And I love that storytelling is not just about your voice and your vocal delivery. It also encompasses your body movement and how you incorporate them into the speech. Up next, you heard her before, and she's back to do her second evaluation. This time it's the writing the speech with a purpose. Toastmaster Lori Hippolyte.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster, for the meeting. Madam Zoom Master, may I please be afforded the courtesy of having distinguished Toastmaster Elka pinned with me as well, please? Thank you very much. I remember this clearly. In the third form, at the American High School, we had a mentoring program. And in the mentoring program, one of the things that the mentor did when she came in was to give everyone a sheet of paper. You are not writing on the paper by yourself. Other persons are writing what they thought about you on the paper. One of the things that came back about me is she loves to read. She reads a lot. And that is very true. And so, distinguished Toastmaster Elka, I have a love for language, particularly painting with words. Distinguished Toastmaster always may be able to use the brush. I don't know how proficient you are with that, but you are certainly proficient with your words. I love seeing through your eyes and with your words how the escapade between you and Buster as you go up the hill and come down. I love seeing it. I was clearly able to imagine that while you were speaking. Having said that, excellent job on the delivery of your speech. The purpose of your speech was to write a speech with a purpose, and in this speech, you decided to inform us about a very real phobia that some of us take for granted. The strategy you used to bring this phobia across is showing us that this was not always your reality. Your reality was you had dogs and you loved them. But having been bitten within a 3-week span, 3 different times by 3 dogs, that can traumatize anyone. And so for me, because I have not been through the experience, it may be something I'm able to brush off. But you brought it to the fore for us today. That though we are not going through the circumstance, we must be sensitive to the persons who are. And I think you can go very far with this, because sometimes using this platform, sometimes we tend to be insensitive to persons. So thank you very much for your speech on xenophobia. I believe it is fear of dogs. I love the emotions that came through your voice while you were giving your speech. So that vocal variety was there. I also loved how you ended your speech. You ended your speech by us adding ourselves into that story. Distinguished Toastmaster Elka, there's one thing I would like to, that one thing I thought could have made your speech even more impactful, because it was very impactful. When you spoke of the death of Buster, you paused, but I thought you did not pause long enough to give your audience an opportunity to absorb the emotions before you moved on with the other part of your speech. So perhaps if you're doing the speech again, or you're doing another story, you would want to look at pausing just a little longer to give persons that chance to absorb, become a part of it, because we have been moving with you all along, and then move on. So thank you very much for your speech. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you for wearing your second hat as evaluator today, Toastmaster Lori Hippolyte. Next to the virtual space, we have distinguished Toastmaster Nikenji Warren Swan, who will be doing her evaluation. Distinguished Toastmaster Nikenji, the virtual space is yours.
Thank you, DTM Joni, and thank you, Melissa. Sing me a song. I related to that excellent hook immediately. What I liked about your speech was you met the speech purpose, you did it in good time, and you brought back a memory for me, a memory of having the experience of being around your grandmother, of hearing your grandmother sing those wonderful songs. And I remember as a little girl hearing on the radio, day, oh, day, oh, day, oh. Beautiful memory. So you've given me the automatic recall. You engaged me, and particularly as the gentleman who sang the song was very handsome, Harry Belafonte. You brought back pleasant memories for me. I also like the use of the prop. The prop was handled very well. I love that engaging smile. It just drew me in as you used that smile to captivate and how you interspersed those lyrics throughout your speech. The hand gestures, I love, particularly when you enumerated your points. That makes it like a hook that you can hang your memory onto what you are sharing. Your vocal variety, the clarity, the eye contact, all there. And like I said, that winning smile hooked me. You had me in your grip. Personal stories, as we know, do things that we sometimes don't even imagine because you don't know how that connection is made, even though you may be miles apart. I also love the way that you've carried the memory of your grandmother, just as I feel I have, and I saw the joy, and I heard the joy within your delivery. In terms of recommendations, what I would like to mention is make our gestures very intentional. As many times we get excited and they're moving long after they have stuff supporting the point that we have made. And be mindful of matching our words to what we are actually presenting to our audience. To challenge yourself, move a little bit in the frame so that you don't just appear stiff. Use the side, come forward, move to the back. These add more enhancement and just bring it in so deep that you're just dripping on and hanging on every word of the speech. Overall, well done presentation. You have a face that is almost like, I believe it's the Queen of Persia. I believe you sink some ships just with that enigmatic, engaging smile. I thoroughly enjoyed your speech. I love that you began and ended with the song, oh day, oh day, oh day, oh. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Nkenji Warren Swan. Up next to evaluate the next speaker will be distinguished Toastmaster Shanari Bullock. Now he can teach you a thing or two about evaluation. So let's see if we can also pick up some pointers on how to evaluate as it relates to storytelling. Distinguished Toastmaster Bullock, virtual space is yours.
Toastmaster Melinda, congratulations on bringing history to life. It did not feel to me like I went on an odyssey, a never-ending journey. You organized your speech in a chronological way and you slipped in significant characters as you move through your storyline. You selected your content very carefully, I thought very thoughtfully in terms of the audience that you had. You merged two histories that I'm familiar with, the overall history of Toastmasters in general and of District 81 in particular. I like the fact that you're able to give something for the men in terms of how it started, the women, that character Homer, and then the Caribbean. You worked it in and Toastmaster Eileen and her contribution. So that worked well and I was able to relate to the content and I suspect that the members of the audience would also be able to relate. Your voice was pleasant but you varied it appropriately. Like when you said Homer was not a man, and when it went low, when you spoke about that sad encounter, low and slow, so that was appropriate as able to appreciate the emotions. Your face was generally pleasant, and that went along with your pleasant and varied voice. I liked the way that you used your head and you smiled, you nodded. And one of the times when you nodded, you said Toastmasters did become that organization, and you went on. So I was able to see just from your expressiveness that the points that you're trying to bring across. In terms of recommendations, the first is in terms of setting up conflict. So in the storytelling project, it talks about introduction, conflict, and action. I've heard the conflict that Ralph Smedley would have faced and that he's trying to accomplish this thing. And I would have loved if you worked that same conflict, something similar for all the characters that you introduced. So for Helen Blanchard, show how what she was doing linked to that initial conflict. And then with the setup of District 81, show how it may have linked to that initial conflict. And that would have allowed you to use some kind of repetition, and it would have given a thematic link throughout the project that I think would have helped to glue things together, so that it wouldn't be like individual stories that just happen to be held together by their place in time. Something that I think could also have helped to add interest is introduction of dialogue. Even if imagined or contrived in your own mind, that would have helped to bring some life to it. But in the absence of that dialogue, varying your voice more, like when you're giving quotes, such as the Helen Blanchard quote, would have done that substitute. Final recommendation that I planned, and then there's a bonus. In terms of your framing, I saw your shoulders moving, but I couldn't see the hands that wanted to come up and do what they needed to do. So I saw that you're using gestures, but I didn't get a chance to appreciate the gestures that you're using. The last one is related to time, but I'll give you that on our own time. I found that your pleasant, positive personality, but with your expressive face, your voice, your consideration of your target audience set you up to be a brilliant storyteller. Congratulations on a job well done, and I wish you all the best on your Toastmasters Odyssey.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Shanari Bullock, for that evaluation. Next to the virtual space, we will be having Javon Malcolm, who will be giving his evaluation.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. It's my pleasure to be with you this evening. Toastmaster Jacinta, A World of Change. I love that title, A World of Change. I feel like before I continue, we need to emphasize titles more because we put effort into making these titles, so we need to make more effort to display them when we're presenting our speeches. But A World of Change, I really enjoyed that title, and it kind of took me into what was going to be expected. What am I looking for? What kind of change am I about to experience? And I was excited for that. And then you just like one of our evaluators said, he started off with change is inevitable. And that resonated with me as well, because we all know why change is needed, and change is always going to happen. No matter what we do, change is always going to be a part of life. And then you started off by giving us a description about your family. You talked about your dad and how he's a farmer, and how y'all used to go on trips every week on the bus to go different places with him. And then how you started off by describing about different forms of transportation. And then you talk about your mother and how she used to get on boats to go travel and handle her business. And you kind of gave us more description on that. Then you started giving us description about the travels that you've been on, to how you went on a helicopter, how you went on a cruise ship, and how you tried different forms of transportation, which was great. I love the PowerPoint presentation because it gave us an illustration of what we were seeing. I got to actually visualize it in my mind by seeing the actual pictures. So that really helped out when you was presenting your speech. But the purpose of your speech was to present a story within your speech, or your speech to be a story overall. And I felt like that part of the presentation kind of missed the mark, because there were moments in the speech where I felt like you could have given us a more descriptive detail. Like, for instance, how you talked about your trip, about you getting on a helicopter. I felt like that was a moment where you could have shared, gave us a experience or a journey of what happened when you was on that experience. Or, for instance, when you talked about being on the cruise ship, being on the bus going, leaving with your father, you could have gave us an experience of how it was being on the bus, how it was interacting with the people. I feel like you could have gave us more in-depth story, more detail, more descriptive detail about the experience, and make us feel more drawn into the story. I feel like that's the only thing I felt like was missing within the speech. But overall, it was an excellent speech, because I got to get an overall view of understanding of your family and your love of traveling, and how you actually turned it from a dream and made it a reality through your schooling. So I thoroughly enjoyed that aspect of the story. But only recommendation I would make in the future is just give us more, pick one particular topic within your story and go in depth with it, and then give us more of a emotional feeling. Other than that, you did a great job. Back to you, Toastmaster today.
Thank you, Toastmaster Javones Malcolm. And yes, I reanimated, and I reanimated for a specific purpose. I know we've been here for a very long time, but we're finally at the end and doing our final evaluation. Ta-ta-na-na! Distinguished Toastmaster, wait, I'm speaking it into being because you're going to help me to hold him accountable to get there. But Toastmaster, Domain Gordon.
Thank you very much, Distinguished Toastmaster Laidlaw. I am looking for Distinguished Toastmaster Stephenson Dalley. There she is. Once upon a time, a long time ago, Toastmasters, upon her quest to complete her path, Distinguished Toastmaster Marline came upon a project to practice storytelling. After a hard battle, she came upon a handsome bard who gave her feedback from a hard-won battle. He spoke thus. Distinguished Toastmaster Marline, Dog's Tale. The thing I loved most about your presentation was the originality and context of your stories. Now, this is not Toastmaster Laurie's literature class, but if we were to dissect it a bit, this is a story within a larger story. Well, I'm not going to be evaluating your art talk, only your story and the preamble, and postamble if that's a word after it. But your art talk gave context to this presentation, and it in itself is a story, which is a culmination of stories from your life and your son's. I loved that kind of layered storytelling. It adds depth and dimension to what it is that you're talking about. And for us book nerds who really like to break apart a story, it gives a lot of content for us to digest. Now, you have a knack for storytelling. It is not new to me, but you also have a knack for speaking. And one of the skills of a speaker is active listening. To begin your presentation, you referenced Distinguished Toastmasters Elka and her dogs and their xenophobia. That's your active listening coming into play, recognizing something else that happened in your environment and then brought it into the preamble of your story, which actually added value to it. Brilliant. Absolutely loved it. Now let's talk about how you told your story. Naturally, you have a paced, elegant, mellifluous way of speaking that makes any story you tell very palatable to the ears. I, for one, thoroughly enjoyed it. But you also exemplified one of the characteristics of a good storyteller, which is the use of voices. Please, Lord, I want a puppy for my birthday. So what you going to name him? You know, the voice, the father, the mother, the child. Bravissimo. I love that sort of thing. Now, it's worth mentioning, Toastmasters, that you don't have to be a professional voice actor. You don't necessarily have to do great voices. It's just that they must be distinguished. They must be different from each other. I mean, as your audience, we can grant you the suspension of disbelief. We don't expect it to be perfect. So very well done, Distinguished Toastmaster Dalley. You also asked us to close our eyes in the beginning, to imagine ourselves as 9 and 10-year-old girls. I imagine myself for a 10-year-old girl the entire presentation. Which brings me to my first recommendation. When were we supposed to open our eyes? Quite a few of us were a little bit taken aback. We not taken aback, but I didn't know when I should have opened my eyes. So remember, as a storyteller, you're in control of your audience. They're hooked. So if you tell them one thing, you have to remember that it was told. So I wasn't sure when I should open my eyes. And secondly, show me the book, please. Show me the book. The images, as you would have learned later on in your art talk, are significant. They were done by your friend who ended up getting one of the puppies. It's a big deal. So I would have loved to see in the image. And it's a storybook. It's very visual in its nature. And us being children, we would like to see those images. Very, very well done in terms of your presentation. I love the context. The story itself was amazing. The layers upon layers was brilliant. Your voice was subliminal throughout the whole thing. Sublime throughout the whole thing. Absolutely loved it. And you, of course, were within time. Take my recommendations as you continue on your journey, warrior, and you shall be fantastic in your storytelling. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you for that in-depth evaluation, referencing not just the speech, but also how the art talk tied into her speaking skills. So that's just not one level, but two. Let me say to everyone here, thank you. Thank you to the speakers who made this all possible. Thank you to the evaluators who went above and beyond to give feedback that can not only be used as it relates to connecting with storytelling, but anytime we go out to speak. Thank you to Toastmaster Alwyn St. Omer for opening our meeting for us. But my biggest, largest, hugest thank you is for those of us who stayed through an entire 3+, nearly 4-hour program to be a part. Because without an audience, why would we speak? Thank you for helping to make this District 81 Division C in association with Platinum Artistic Toastmasters Club, Toastmasters 99th anniversary, dare I say, was definitely a storytelling event to be remembered. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of the day.